My face is shiny. Welcome to the Real Drunk Show. Today's episode is called Theology and Film Waiting to Exhale. Let's start with introductions. We'll go around the way you guys appear on the screen and start with Candace. Hey,
Hi,
Candace girl.
Hi, how are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm very tired. I've been gardening all weekend.
I've been following your story, and I will say you are a strong woman.
I am. I feel like I'm Bernadette, and I feel very strong, right?
So, with these introductions, tell us your name, where you're at, what you're drinking, and your favorite character.
Mm. I'm Candace. I'm in Detroit. I am drinking a bitter X. It is lime juice over whiskey inside the cognac glasses that I got in the divorce. And if you look at the bottom, you can see the seeds that I planted in his miserable life. So my favorite character is Gloria.
Why, Gloria?
Because I love Loretta Devine in a place so deep in my heart that there can't be a film where she's in an ensemble and I don't see her very clearly. And I also think that Gloria for me was so relatable to the women that I knew. Like
Mm,
she was much closer to any woman in that film, like the women that I grew up knowing. So yeah.
Jocelyn.
I am Jocelyn Henderson. I am a graduate student at Baylor University. I don't say that very loudly, but yeah, I'm a graduate student at Baylor. I'm at the seminary and the School of Music working on the Master of Divinity and the Master of Music. I'm geographically in Waco, Texas, and I do a lot of work around Black sacred music. So, yeah,
I'm looking.
church music, but of Black folks.
I am looking forward to your commentary around the Waiting to Exhale soundtrack
Let's
because
go.
I would like to say that is Black sacred music, but we'll get into that a little later.
And that's that. And my favorite character from the movie. Me and Whitney's birthday are a day apart, so it's gonna be Savannah for me. It's Savannah for me, and because she bossed the fuck up at the end. She was like,
Yeah.
"Girl," to everybody, to Kenneth and to her mama. Anyway, we'll get there. But yeah, it's Savannah for me.
All right, Allison.
Hey y'all, I'm Allison. I'm a graduate film student, former seminarian, barely. So I am now in graduate school studying images of Blackness, preservation around images of Blackness, and respectability politics around images of Blackness. My favorite character is Robin. Probably because as I watched it last night, I had to say to myself, "Big, you are most like Robin. Stop denying it." So Robin is my favorite character. I get it. I like messy men. I like to say you do crazy. So it's Robin.
Oh, Whitney. Hey, girl.
Hey y'all, I'm Whitney. I am from East St. Louis, but I've been in Atlanta since 2004 now. So yeah, I don't know what we called in East St. Louis, but something peach. Um, yeah, I'm sorry. You said what we were drinking, favorite character. So I'm
Oh,
drinking Malbec.
Oh,
I'm a classy ass bitch.
yeah.
And my favorite character, I would definitely say in my 20s was Robin. Because when I watched Waiting to Exhale as an adult, it was totally different from when I watched it like in my teens. So in my 20s, it definitely was Robin. I can say like inching into my 30s, I was a combination of probably everybody except Bernie. Um, yeah. Um, yeah, I definitely see myself in all four of those women, and I did not know that until I watched it again in March. I was like,
Mm,
this is adulting, especially because when I originally saw the movie, I thought they were so much older, like
uh,
mid 40s, knocking on 50, and to know that they were like mid to late 30s, Yeah.
You know what? That explains Bernadette's anger, because she was like 33 doing this man for 11 years. She literally
all of
whole
her
life.
20s.
Yeah.
The best years.
Wow.
Woo, okay, Allison, you are wrong. Michael says no. Allison is a theologian extraordinaire, and I would like to agree. In fact,
Yes.
Allison, I was talking to Cameron last night about my funeral, and I was like, I want a woman to preach my funeral. And I was like, start with Allison. And he was like, I can see that. You and Miss Allison are a lot alike. I'll start
Listen, I've been put out of from Vacation Bible School and Sunday school to seminary. I've been put out of every church space there has ever been. And it's been worth it. It's been worth it.
You haven't lived till you've been kicked out of a church. And I've lived. I've lived.
Live.
And look,
Given a laptop when you gotta preach.
that was after he told me he was going to have to evaluate my funeral plans, because some of them might be a little outrageous. And
That makes sense.
he may not be able to do.
That reads.
Look, him and my sister
That's right.
like Celine at my funeral, and I don't understand why. Like,
No, that's an urban. Yeah, no, that's a funeral classic. That's almost that this generation is losing. You need to bring that back.
Amen.
so I am Kia. As you can see, I am ridiculous. Currently in seminary. I am in Atlanta. I am drinking wine that I can't say how it got to my house because it may not be a legal means. So we're gonna keep moving.
Oh, you got it delivered.
Yeah, I found a place that ships to Georgia, and I don't know if they know that it's not legal to ship to Georgia, but I just keep.
That's your business.
That's your
That's your business.
That's what it is. Like that.
Like that.
So, yeah, when Robin said she likes pretty boys with big stick, I felt that. I felt that more than I was proud of feeling that. And I was like, damn, I'm Robin. Let me call my therapist up again. So, when
I'm my bad. I forgot.
No, say that again, Whitney.
I said I forgot to say what I do. My bad.
Oh, yes. No.
Everything.
No, tell them, because it's important for this conversation.
Like Allison, I'm an ex-seminarian, except we earned our degrees. Unlike some people. We went to the same school for seminary, and I have my MDiv with a certificate in Black Church Studies. My BA from Spelman is in drum with a concentration in dance, and I'm currently a PhD student in theology, ethics, and human sciences, looking at Black church culture, particularly within sexuality for queer people of faith.
Yes, and I have a question for you, Whitney. You know what? That'll be my first question. Before that, Marissa is joining us from the UK. Waiting to Excel is one of her favorite movies. And the
Hey, girl.
It's been 25 years.
Amen.
So this movie, and I don't know if what it says about us as a culture or the movie as a classic, but it felt like it was written today. And I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing.
Well, men don't change their stripes.
Ooh.
Look at
Everybody just
content. Relatable content. 25 years later.
Thanks for coming to our TED Talk. We will see you guys later.
And
that was everything. We don't need to say nothing else.
All right.
And that's that on that.
And that.
So Whitney, I guess my question, just to jump in, when I look at this movie, I think a lot about relationships, and like a lot of it is sisterhood relationship, but a lot of it is male-female romantic relationships. As a queer woman who is in a relationship with another woman, how are you still able to see yourself in this film? And I think this kind of it helps us open our eyes instead of like pigeonholing the film into
For one, within my queer identity, I identify as bi. So I mean, I've had experiences with men and women. I'm just choosing to marry somebody who got some sense, who happens to be a woman. And that's
Look, I'm still waiting on the sliding scale. They said worked. My scale don't slide. So
yours does not slide, and I needed to because never mind, we're not gonna go there. So I feel the story of those 4 women, though, they're so universal. Like, I believe all of us are millennials, but we are on like the beginning of the end part.
Yeah.
And my mama, her sisters, I remember when all of them went to go and see the movie together. My mama was the youngest of 8 kids, and 7 of them are all women. And all of them, plus the one boy, his wife, his sister-in-law, they went to go and see the movie. And I just remember like waiting for them to come back home, being like, "Oh my gosh, what was it?" And once I finally saw the movie, I didn't get it then, but I was like, "Oh, adulthood is gonna be this." And then once I lived a little and watched it in my 20s, I was just like, "Okay, Robin, girl, hey, we just out here with all the fuck niggas, and okay, because we just gonna get it together." You know what? Maybe I did see Bernie in myself a little bit. Giving love a chance when you don't know what the outcome is going to be, but it just feels good right now. It might feel wrong. It feels good right now. And when we talk about the story of love, I don't necessarily think that we can isolate it to man to man, woman to woman, or man to woman. Like, love is a very universal concept. That regardless of queerness, heterosexuality, that's something that most people experience. So if you're a woman who is not under like patriarchy or like purity culture, you've experienced one of these women or pieces of these women at some point of your life. Like, if you're honest, you've experienced something that they have talked about in this book or in this movie.
And Allison, I want to turn to you because this was supposed to be my first question, but between wine and not having my notes up, can you provide us with the historical and cultural context of the movie Waiting to Exhale?
So Wait to Exhale came out in 1995, and that's a big deal because between 1990 and like 95, we get the slew of Black Hood movies. So we get Boys in the Hood, Menace to Society, we get Higher Learning by John Singleton. We just get all of these films. Now, some upper class Black films are sprinkled in. So we get Boomerang, we get Strictly Business, we get Mo Money. But this is the first film, one of the first films that shows upper class professional African-American women dealing with relationships. Boomerang and Strictly Business and Mo Money are from the male perspective, but Waiting to Exhale is really from the female perspective. And after Waiting to Exhale, of course, it got mixed reviews. Of course, Black Men is just a male bashing movie, just like they did when Color Purple came out in 85, 10 years earlier. When Waiting to Exhale came out, it was so successful among Black women. That's when we get Set It Off in 96, Soul Food in 97, How Stella Got a Groove back in 98, Best Man in 99, Love Jones in 96. So it really kicks off we want to see more professional, mobile Black people on film. And it's Forest Whitaker's first directorial debut. And to me, it is one of the very few films where the soundtrack actually matches the film. Where the film, like Boomerang is a great soundtrack, but Boomerang songs don't actually always match Boomerang's story, whereas Waiting to Exhale does.
That was really interesting too to hear Babyface last night talk about how the songs were written for particular characters and
the themes and characters. Yep.
Whitney's gone. Okay. So let's talk about that soundtrack real quick and how it helped tell the story of those women. I was listening to Shoop earlier today. And Shoop really sounded like something you would hear in the Psalms. Like it really laid out a pattern for how life happens. Jocelyn, you want to hop in and tell us a little bit about that?
I was listening to it today too, and it's the beginning of the soundtrack, so it just like lays the foundation for whatever is going to come next. And also, it's weaved throughout the movie, like this symphonic reduction of it is weaved throughout all of the scenes. When there's no like vocal music happening, there's the shoot, but it comes on and it's Whitney's voice is so everything, and it's so calming. Like everyone falls, and it lays such a necessary foundation for the movie, for the soundtrack, for the overall sentiment of the music of the soundtrack as we go forward. It's so good. It's so good. I should look. Let me look these lyrics. Let me look at these lyrics. It's so good.
Because when I was listening to the music, it reminded. I think we look to theology and Bible to kind of explain problems of life and to keep us from the hurt and pain of life. But when you listen to the words and shoot, it better aligns to me with the way life happens, because it's like you have the good and the bad, and you can't always explain how it happens, but at the end of the day, you have your community, you have your girlfriends to stand by your side and see you through. And that has been my real life experience. Like, you can't guide your way into not experiencing pain. I think we try to do that. We try to be so holy and so righteous to avoid hurt and heartbreak. Instead of understanding that hurt and heartbreak is a part of life and learning to work through that.
Yeah. And trying to make everything, like when something bad is happening, when heartbreak is happening, well, God is just preparing me for my mate. God is just gonna send my husband. Like, sometimes God is like, I ain't got shit. Crazy.
Or not.
Like, girl, I ain't had nothing to do with that.
I also like the introspection of this song too. You can look inside the soul, you have like that, you know. And that's also a theme in The Children Are Our Future. I don't even know the name of that song. But yeah, it's like, look inside of you. Work on you. Like, and sometimes you laugh, sometimes you cry.
That's Ecclesiastes.
Sometimes it's wrong, sometimes it's right. For every win, someone must fail, you know.
Yes.
Lord.
Yeah. And it is a point you just gotta let it
talk
go.
about the shoot too. Yeah, hearing Babyface talk about the shoot, and you know, I don't remember if it was Whitney that was pushing back on it, like, oh no, shoot. It's a lot, but classic.
Yeah, it is.
Classic. That's a karaoke classic.
Reminds me of Selah in the Bible, where like you don't really know what it means, but it's just that pause and just like this for a minute.
And sometimes you don't even have the words, like, so the spirit will make. So
wave my hand. That's the shoot. If I don't say a word.
Yeah. Juanita Bynum teaches us that all the time. You know, you can just put words.
All right, keep going there.
So sorry. I'm so sorry. Sorry. My apologies. Deeply my apologies. But you know, one of the things that I love so much about the soundtrack, when Aretha Franklin passed away, I wrote something about the sound of Black women in church, and specifically Black women singing gospel music, and how important it is to like my memories of growing up, right?
And
can
we get that link?
Right.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. I'll send the link. And so when I hear Aretha Franklin and Patti LaBelle and Shaka Khan singing on the soundtrack, it's that exact same sound. And it's this space where you feel like someone has you, like somebody has wrapped you in their arms, and they're going to tell you the truth. And the truth might not feel good, right? But it's what you need to hear in order to get to whatever the next step is, to whatever comes after this moment that you are sitting in. And when I was writing about that, I was thinking about my own grandmother and how since she's passed, I haven't felt like there was someone's lap I could crawl into. Right. And so when you see Bernie going into that situation with Wesley Snipes' character, for instance, in the movie, that's that moment where you literally need to crawl into somebody's lap, bad lap or good lap. We can argue that point later. But there are moments where even as a strong woman, you need to fall completely apart on someone. And like for me, women singing gospel has always been that place. So I felt like I could do that best.
Does that include Juanita Bynum's gospel songs?
So I would like to say this.
Mostly her tweets, Whitney. Mostly her tweets.
There is a song or two of Juanita Bynum's that I appreciate more than I'm proud to say. And I don't
Hey, God uses everybody.
listen.
That is not a cop out. I can use anybody.
Now, that does not mean I'm going around typing in tongues.
I type in tongues.
That was such an amazing night on the Twitter.
Oh, that was a great night. That was a great night.
I have never seen anyone like manifest tongues in print. And I'm still fascinated by that. Like, is there biblical foundation for
Typing tongues?
So no, like this ain't even on some like gag and funny kind of shade. Well, maybe it is a little shade, but as somebody who has the gift of speaking in tongues as the Spirit gives utterance, that is not something that can be translated to a readable language.
Well, I mean, clearly it wasn't readable.
Whitney, I'm pretty sure I downloaded that on Duolingo. So are you sure?
Right. Is that what Cam Newton does? Like, does Cam Newton type in tongues?
No, he just has a crazy ass font that nobody can read.
Wait, what?
Childish font. A childish font.
Oh, girl, go to his Instagram. He types in this crazy font that you be like, it gives you a headache trying to interpret what he's saying. I don't care for football, but my partner does, and she loves Cam Newton. I'll be like, girl, but what is this?
What in the Russian?
What in the?
Learn to trust the journey. No, thank you, sir. Not this journey.
Wingdiling's font.
Wingding's font. That's right.
I'm sorry, Wingdings.
Not a lie.
What Android allows that? That's some Android foolishness.
I was in love with Cam Newton for a while, and I actually paid $99
I remember.
to download the app to type in the font that he types in. So there was a whole app at one time where you can type like Cam Newton. I feel like I was the only person in the world who downloaded that.
You were in your Robin bag.
Robin bag. Listen, pretty big stick, stupid, like doom, doom, doom.
And see, I'm the opposite of Robin. I like them rough with big sticks. So
shout out to Chicago. Shout out to Detroit.
Mississippi.
Which is you listen.
I love you a good
wherever that Great Migration took them, I'm following them.
Ain't no wrong with a good.
I'm going to the route. I'm going to the migration. I'm staying that whole Mississippi River up and down.
Okay, sacred music though. So, I was listening to Mary J. Blige, "Not Gonna Cry," and I remember.
Please, let's go there. Let's go there.
That was my favorite song off the soundtrack at 14 years old, and I felt like, like I felt like I had experienced what Mary was thinking about,
girl.
And I was 14 years old breaking up with Negroes at the skating rink.
Yep.
You know, who I never went out on a date with.
After 2 weeks.
Off the phone with at 9 o'clock.
That's right.
They're going home playing, not gonna cry. 11 weeks. I remember singing 11 weeks out of my life. Like in middle school.
Which is forever, by the way.
Look, that was a long-term relationship.
It's a long-term relationship now.
Honestly.
We were together forever.
A long time.
But you were talking about, Candace, like getting the truth, being told the truth, and then it feeling like a hug. And that's what I think about when I hear Mary J. Blige. I'm echoing somewhere. And
the devil.
You see him? He's busy. Stay busy.
Is this better? No echo now, right?
No.
Okay. So, but what I thought about is like this soundtrack, that song in particular. I'll say that song and Aretha Franklin's
Oh, that Aretha Franklin song.
Sometimes it hurts so bad.
It hurts so bad.
It has a way of expressing pain and healing you at the same time.
Right.
How is that even possible?
That's the gift. That's the gift. Now that's the gift. That's right.
That's the oil. When Babyface said she recorded that in one take, to be able to emote that deeply, and you ain't even really fully sang the song. You've only read the lyrics. You're reading the sheet music, and you just like, okay, I can't be here all day.
I got things to do. My greens is on.
But that's the power, Mama. That's the power.
And brought a peach cobbler. Girl.
How do you tap into something like so? Because that's 25 years ago. I was 9 years old. So when that soundtrack dropped, I was just like, sometimes.
No, I was in my bathroom listening to It Hurts Sometimes, crying, and I can't remember the last time I even knew a nigga to love.
Wait, you don't even know none to even love them. Is that what you're saying?
In the first place.
You don't remember the last time you met a man that could even have lived in a place like that. Oh Lord,
Candace is preaching.
You hear it?
She is.
See, to me, for when they said Aretha recorded in one take, the first thing I thought was, of course, Aretha's like 30 years in her career. Of course, she just stepped in the booth like and was done.
Also, 40 and 60 years into getting her heart broken.
And then that's the other thing is we talk about Aretha's life experiences, but we really do not talk about.
So you all want to have a whole.
We don't even, because then we got to talk about
her dad.
We ain't got enough room today. Not today. But people like
Aretha to be upset.
People like Aretha, people like Mary, people like Terry McMillan, who, and I hate it because they can take that pain and create it the art. But I also hate that mantra because it teaches a lot of our artists you got to go through pain to create something.
Come on.
It's both are true and the same, but they're also
because some stuff you can only sing about, preach about, write about from experience.
Yeah.
I was thinking exactly that.
Like, I mean, experience equates wisdom. Wisdom doesn't equate age.
That's right.
There are people who are younger than me that have been through some stuff, and I'd be like, girl, let me pull out my notepad and let me cash app you after this because you just dropped all of these gems. But somebody that's 20 years their senior has never gone through it, so they can't speak to it the way that this person that's 5-10 years younger than me can.
And here's the interesting thing, because Andre Harrell didn't think Mary would be able to sing the song because she had never been in another relationship. She never endured divorce. And
she endured KC.
But she was with KC.
And I think that's why that song was so perfect, and that's why we were at the skating ring and using it to emote our own pain, because it just, you don't have to have experienced exactly what she's saying, but her voice and the way she communicates that pain and that disappointment in losing this relationship, it is relatable to every relationship experience. You feel the love, you feel the loss and disappointment, and in the midst of that, you are able to heal your own heart.
Babyface said when he was talking about not gonna cry on the live yesterday on the Instagram live, he was he said the story about the Andre Harrell thing, and he was like, but love and pain is universal.
Come on.
So whoever's gonna hear this song is going to be able to relate. And you know, I might be the youngest in the group. That doesn't matter. But when I heard the song, I was like, yeah, your lover and your secretary working every day of the week. I felt that. I felt every piece of that.
When didn't nobody have your back?
11 years.
When didn't nobody?
Like, I didn't even know that song was attached to the soundtrack until a couple of weeks ago. I just knew the song in and of itself. And then hearing it in the context of the movie, I'm like,
Jocelyn, my love, how old are you?
She just turned 30.
I'm in my 30s.
Oh, girl, you in your 30s. That's not real good. Don't be in your 30s.
She turned 30 this past August.
My 30s, but I'm in it though.
Welcome to your 30s.
Well,
So
you in it, girl.
I saw the movie the first time in March, but
Jocelyn, your headphones are a little muffled. See if you take them out and if the sound gets better. I don't know if it will or not, but we'll try. So, and I have a question for you. I am willing to say that the Waiting to Exhale soundtrack is sacred music. Am I going too far by saying that?
Not at all. Not at all.
Sacred does not equal biblical.
Oh, okay, Whitney, let's go.
I have many sacred texts. Like I have sacred texts on my desk right now.
Oh, wait, Jocelyn, I'm sorry, Whitney. Jocelyn is saying that you don't have a mic connected. Can you connect your internal mic?
Yeah, disconnect your AirPods in your Bluetooth.
Is it working now? Can you hear me now?
Yep, you're good now.
Is it echoing though?
No.
No. Okay.
So like I have several sacred texts just right here, like on my desk. Hold on. I got a lot going on. So one, speaking of music.
Yeah, I have that. I love that.
Why is mine also right here?
First of all, I feel like, my tuition.
I was going to ask, where did you snatch that from?
Out of a church, if you're brave enough.
Out so I wouldn't be so ghetto, but I did.
When I was a student, though, so let me be clear. It was when I was a student, so I felt like my tuition covered that. That's a sacred text. The Spirit of Intimacy is a sacred text. I got a whole stack right here of Toni Morrison books. Like
that's right. That's right.
I mean, sacred text is not just something that's biblical. I feel like sacred text means anything that you find liberation in.
So here's the question I have for you, because the Bible stopped being written some 2,000 years ago. God has not stopped speaking.
No.
So, like, what are some of your sacred texts, sacred songs? What are things that aren't biblical that you find God's voice in and you're able to like lean into and heal from and grow from?
When
the gag is that the Bible is not at the top of sacred texts for me.
Oh,
I say that as a minister.
Hold on, we gotta have a Selah moment.
Shoot.
Take that in here. All right, go Whitney.
You shoot about it.
Yeah.
You wanna shoot. But yeah, there are so many sacred texts, and like I said, I don't find that the Bible is in my number one spot. It's just not. Because I've needed things that I didn't need to exegete. I didn't need to go to the Greek or the Hebrew to get to the original context. Like I needed something that was written 20th century that I'm like, I know exactly what this means.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is me right now. Now there are some texts and scriptures in the Bible that I can turn to that, they get straight to the point. But generally speaking, for the entire book, that Old and New Testament and the extra books that some versions include, like you really got to do some like deep reading to really get to the meat of it. And sometimes when you're in crisis, when you're in pain, when you're in heartbreak, you ain't got time for that shit.
That's right.
You need to be able to open something and be like, "Ooh, I went to page 52, read a couple of sentences, and now we good."
Yeah. When my grandmother was dying, so my grandmother was in hospice the week that she was dying. I was driving down the street. I had taken a break from caring for her, and I was driving down the street, and it was the week that The Light of the Sun, Jill Scott's album, came out. And I'm riding down the street, and the song "When I Wake Up" came on. And mind you, so my grandmother is dying about 18 months after my mother had died, very suddenly. My grandmother is clearly dying from heartbreak, for sure. And I have not really dealt, like my grandmother got sick like seconds after my mother died. And so it was like I went from my mother dying, I'm 26 years old, to my grandmother being sick. And I heard this song and I had to pull my car over because I was bawling.
You had too much on your mind.
Come on. But when I wake up,
baby,
everything around me
beautiful
will be beautiful. None of this is happening to me for no reason. That song literally was ministering to me. It was telling me that I was going to get to whatever was after this. After this pain that felt like it was going to literally eat me, I was going to wake up and be okay. So certainly we can find the spirit in all sorts of places. And I am absolutely, like, this would be on a list of hymnals for me. I hear it the same way I hear Amazing Grace, which, by the way, is my very favorite Aretha Franklin song of all time.
Her Amazing Grace album, oily.
Listen. So it's that same thing, like that ability to be able to take exactly what she brings you in soul music. That comes through her ability to connect to the spirit. That is what she's doing. It's why when you hear her singing, why does it hurt so bad? She's bringing that exact same energy through.
She's speaking with conviction.
That's right.
Something I want to explore about Aretha, and I'm giving it to someone who has more time and would be able to. But Aretha was able to live her life in what seemed like a full way. She was able to be her whole self and be it authentically. And I think that's why her music sounds like that, whether it's gospel or sick. I hate the word. I'm sorry. I hate the word.
And you heard
everything was authentic, and you feel that in her music. And I think when William Barber spoke at her funeral, I feel like he got into that.
He got into, that's right.
Her in a way
that's right.
that, like, she was able to consist of what we call the sacred and the secular.
That's
in a
right.
way that was just her, and it was authentic, and like that's my goal in life.
So I was at that service. And on the left-hand side of me, girl, all 9,000 of them hours. But I want to thank God for the saint who snuck some Jimmy Johns in that church to me. I want to thank that saint, okay? Because I made it. I made it to the other side.
I had breakfast and lunch during that funeral.
Girl, it was, and I'm in my full girdle. I'm in all of my Sunday girdle. Got my tights up, got my hosiery on, got a slip on, got a brooch on. You know, it was a lot. So,
a Sunday girdle is a different type of girdle.
It's a different. You think I wore my best girdle to Aretha service.
My
God. I was in pain when I got out.
What you would have wanted.
So on the left side of me are like celebrities. That's where you look over there, and literally all the celebrities that you saw there sitting to the left-hand side of where I was sitting. And on the right-hand side of me were all of these people who I knew from Detroit, who you would only know if you grew up here. And this is the intersection of her life. It was the dude who ran the popular nightclub on the right-hand side and presidents on the left-hand side. Like, that's who she was. And that, I think, is the thing that represents her Detroit spirit the most. That's what Detroit is. You know, it's nothing for a council person to be sitting next to a dude that works from the plant at the bar. That is how we grow. That's how you grew up, right? Like, you're not no better than the dude who works on the line at Ford just because you went to law school. So like that's that, but that's also the same thing we start to see in this movie, right? So you have a hairdresser who's friends with a woman who has an MBA, though she has not used it.
She got it for that nigga. To help his business.
She actually did use it. Actually, she used it quite well for somebody else's wealth, which we can talk about. Sow your own seeds. Plant your own stuff for yourself. Anyhow, you tweeted that yesterday, Kia, from the Spelman speech. What did you tweet yesterday?
From the Spelman speech.
You said there was a speech somebody gave at Spelman about
Sharon Epperson. She came to Spelman Women of Color Conference in like 2014, 13 or 14, because I left Spelman in 15. And she said, a man is not your financial plan. She's a financial expert. And at that time when she said that, I was still hopeful that like one day I was going to meet this partner, and between what I was making and what he was making, that was going to be my financial plan that set everything off. So when she said, a man is not your financial plan, like that is one of my sacred scriptures. I carry
it's a sacred text.
Yeah, it is.
It hit me in my throat and it changed the way I moved. And like today, I'm a completely different person than I was then, because what I will tell you today is I don't trust a man enough to be my financial
Come on now.
Men are too
they fickle.
They will change their mind and leave you high and dry. So like when I see the girls talking about get you a rich one and let who's paying the bills and rent. Here's the thing. Look, I want you to be wealthy. I want you to be able to pay all these bills, but I will never trust you alone to take care of me.
That's right.
The kid will always be working, and when it's time to walk away because you undid some fuck shit, I will be able to walk away and take care of myself.
Yeah.
You know, there are 3 instances of media where I remember my mom having that conversation with me because something popped off. The first one, and I remember it clear as day, I was 8 years old, and Dwayne and Whitley broke up on A Different World because he cheated, and she gave the ring back. And I remember my mom turning to me and saying, baby, always remember this. And I still remember clear as day. If he breaks up with you, you keep the ring. If you break up with him, you give the ring back. And I'm like 8, like, why are you telling me? Okay, mommy, I'll remember this. And then I remember when Waiting to Exhale came out, because it was a big deal, because Waiting to Exhale came out the Christmas right after my grandmother died. And my mom is one of 4 sisters. And we had, you know, every first Christmas, while Big Mama's what? We turn the house out, we fight, and da-da-da-da. We say, Christmas, let's go to the movies. Allison and your cousin Stephanie, y'all got to sit in Jumanji. We going to see Waiting to Exhale. And I remember my mom brought Waiting to Exhale the tape home, and we watched it together. And I remember her telling me the same thing, like, you know, always make sure if you get married that you have your own money. You have your own bank account, protect yourself. Don't rely on man to be your full financial. I just remember those conversations. And then the third one, interestingly enough, is when Tyler Perry's Diary of a Mad Black Woman came out. And he put her out the house and she had no financial background. And we had that conversation. Remember, keep your own stuff separate. Keep everything. Listen, I don't have a lot of assets now, but I own a lot of movies, and I'm getting a prenup for my DVDs because you ain't taking my movie.
You better believe it.
No, and look,
you won't take these tiles out of here.
You ain't getting these. Because I mean, I will
too hard for these Macy's tiles.
And look, these women, like, even look at Mary J. Blige and Adele. They went into these relationships thinking love was going to be enough. And now they are paying men. I don't know Adele's story as much, but Mary J. Blige had to pay a man who worked for her. And
that would have hurt my heart.
Her. Like, protect yourself.
Protect
your
neck.
What my prenup will say is, if you cheat, you don't get shit.
Write
my
it down.
Gonna say, we in, you ain't getting shit anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, you had the student debt if you want, like, oh, Your Honor, he got it. Tell him take all the student debt. He got it. He or she got it, Your Honor. Whatever it is, but
so I'm sorry. I have a question though. We were talking about sacred texts, and what you see is you see a lot of churches who take. So, for example, there was this church here in Atlanta who took Meg Thee Stallion Savage and turned it into Sacred and Sanctified and some other stuff.
That was one of my favorite things to do as a teenager. It was. I loved it. Listen, it wasn't an R&B song that came out that I didn't figure out how to put Jesus' name in.
My church group.
I used to take Wu-Tang's Cream and was like, Christ rules everything.
Come on.
My church group, we were genuine, so anxious to get in Sunday service. We was in there singing, so anxious to get to church at 11 o'clock.
We absolutely remixed a R. Kelly song that we sang at a youth summit in 90, 4, 3, one of them.
Whitney is young.
So y'all, no, wait.
You know how much therapy I had to go through, Whitney? A lot.
There are people who are listening who don't understand the difference between us saying a shoot is a sacred text and us taking Savage and throwing Jesus in there.
That ain't the same thing.
So let me just stick a quick pin, and then I'm gonna let Jocelyn, Candace, and Allison say whatever they want to say. The reason that I hashtag specifically had an issue with this particular Atlanta church and pastor.
Wait, Whitney, I'm sorry. I hate to interrupt your thoughts.
Rashonda, I'm not going to do this with you.
We think there's a meeting.
So Christ, please don't be late. There's a meeting in the
That's ignorant. That's ignorant.
Into the sanctuary, looking so polite.
Hey.
No.
No, but the reason I had an issue with what he did is because he preaches against everything that Megan Thee Stallion stands for.
So
now,
wait, are you saying,
Oh.
wait, time out. So you're saying his theology does not even align with the song that he appropriated
with her theology.
I hope not Tamar Braxton
to pull the street people into the church.
I think
quote unquote.
This is a sin of the cool pastors that drives me crazy. Is that they think the only way to minister to folks if I take something that's of the world and make it Christ, and that's gonna pull people in. Like I'm stupid enough to say, "Oh my God, they playing Savage. Let me pay my tithes today." What?
They in there playing all the club hits.
Okay, I'm gonna join today. You for not that stupid, and I think we discount youth ministry when we try to say, and it's not a thing of actually trying to preach. It's actually cheap. I'm not trying to create a new song or talk about theology. I'm just gonna make a remix. It's just cheap,
and they're discrediting youth. Like
that's right.
I can think about my own youth experience. I grew up primarily National and American Baptist with Kojic leanings because of my family, and like both of these
in church all day.
Contexts, like trying to just. A lot of them felt like Kirk Franklin was the end all be all, like it was the answer to everything they were trying to do, and I was like. The reason that Kirk Franklin actually works is because he's not just throwing this little Kim beat on it. Like
he's his own thing.
What you say?
He was his own thing. Yeah.
He was his own thing. He wasn't out here just trying to throw it on there to like grab the attention. He was like, no, that beat still rides. Like,
yeah.
Tripping.
I think that, like Whitney said, the Savage thing was a bad look. And before we even got to Sunday morning, he played it and recorded a video of the song in the background as he's like giving out communion stuff. Like, and the lyrics that were in the background was Beyonce's verse. TikTok when I dance on my demon time, I might start an OnlyFans. Baby, why is that playing while people are like play the instrument?
Make it match.
But what are you don't even believe that. That's you don't even preach that from your that's not your theology. That's not your tradition. That's not people in your church's theology or their tradition. What is the point? Is this for shock value? And
it's marketing.
It's marketing. It's marketing.
Lindsay, thank you. Lindsay says, as a former youth minister, I don't allow it with my kids. Because it's one thing for a quote unquote secular song to have sacred lyrics or to speak to you in a way. It is another thing to completely co-opt something that does not align with your ministry or your theology and try to use it to manipulate people into your door. And what it feels like to me is kind of what Republicans are doing with this whole Joe Biden thing. Because Joe Biden has made this stupid ass comment about you ain't black if you don't vote for me. And Republicans are now condemning him and it's like, come over here. Like, they don't see that black people are intelligent enough to understand.
You got this one.
Like, your beliefs and philosophies don't align with my beliefs and philosophy. And they just think, it feels the same to me. Am I being ridiculous?
They could put because they could put a puppy up there and we don't vote for that Democratic puppy. I mean, truly, honestly, if he could just shut up and get us to you, so it don't matter, right? So Kia, one of the ways the best way I can make this example close together, there is this Shared Sisters and the Winans have this song called Dance, right? And this house DJ, Louis Vega, took it and made it a house song. And house, like the spirit of house music is communion. It is right. It is communion. It is bringing the spirit together. It is bringing enjoyment and joy into a place. That's the same thing gospel music at its heart does, right? So when the first time I heard this song, and I was at the Chosen Few in Chicago, as a house music festival in Chicago, and I'm on the grounds of the festival, and I hear this song, I literally felt like I could have caught the Holy Ghost in the middle of that festival. There was this moment where it was just the connection of these two things, and I'm watching all these beautiful people around me dance and be joyful, and it's a good time, and people are happy, and I hear these lovely lyrics in Karen Clark Sheard's voice. That was all I needed. So those two, there is an intersection there. It absolutely is.
Speaking of people who have like redone music, Karen Clark Sheard and Kiki,
listen,
loves me.
You love me.
You know,
listen. That's right.
I hold your hand, I help you.
Yes.
You understand? Like,
that's right.
Karen Valencia Sheard, Clark Sheard did that.
You love a full name.
I love it because when I give the full name, that means that they was in their bag, the big Birkin.
Singing. They was doing they singing.
Singing.
Oh, y'all are talking good today.
And this one has been good too.
So, Courtney, let me pop Courtney's comment back up there. She said gospel house music.
It is. It really is. It really is.
I didn't appreciate house music until I became an adult because I didn't know about it growing up in East St. Louis, St. Louis.
Right. I don't have a proper appreciation for it now. Like when I heard it, just kind of made me itch, and I just feel like I don't understand.
It wasn't until folks were like, "You going to House in the Park?" And I was like, "What is House in the Park?" And that first time I went, I was just like, "Woo!
Yep,
come on!" Like, hear and follow me. I don't know what I know that it's like such a stereotypical like house song, but it is something about those lyrics.
Yep,
and when
good.
you get around and see a sea of black folks,
that's right.
It releases a wake that only, and that's why I feel like church. Oh, I have so many thoughts, Lord Jesus, which is why I have such an issue with folks feeling like we have to keep the church doors open during this quarantine. Because church happens like outside of those four walls.
That's right.
It happens so often and so frequently outside of those four walls if we allow the Spirit to do what Spirit does.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wait. Shoot moment.
No.
This can happen anywhere. That's why Kanye did the Sunday service.
Now, Kanye, now wait. Pause, time the out.
Oh.
Let me tell you why there's a disconnect between what Kanye does and what House in the Park does. Kanye is also preaching a theology that shames everything about me. Here and saying, "Oh, that CD, the music did bop though," but he talking about Trump is for us, black people that chose like slavery was a choice. Nigga, what the fuck? Like,
people didn't have any culture.
And see, when Kanye went Trump, that was hardest for me because for years, for years, Kanye was a sacred text for me.
Like,
that's right.
Probably up until this Montana album, up until Life of Pablo, there was like, God knows that me, because I disconnected from God in church at a young age, being a pastor's daughter, God knew that I wasn't gonna hear God in church. So my sacred texts were Kanye. My sacred text is Grey's Anatomy up till this season. But God can always speak to me in Grey's Anatomy, in media, and things like that. And so I'm still wrestling with what does it look like to lose your sacred text?
Well, so speaking of Kanye, his graduation album came out senior year as a woman. When I tell you that was the fucking soundtrack for my life,
I've been to 5 Kanye concerts. I'm still wrestling with is what do you do when something that spoke so, and I think we deal with this with pastors, with churches, with sacred spaces. Yeah. What do you do when something that speaks life into you for so many years turns around and speaks harm?
Wait. So are you talking about what Bernie was trying to say when her husband, who she had invested all of her time and left her? That was the same exact thing that happened. She lost her sacred text.
She lost it. And to me, the background noise, that this is the test of the emergency broadcast system, and it's that long beat is the best background noise to describe what that feeling if you realize that loss
That
hit.
is such beautiful editing.
That is beautiful editing.
About that. I was wondering if it was just me. That was literally happening.
Forrest puts a lot of, and me and another sister were talking about this yesterday. Forrest puts a lot of background noise in Wayne's Tale, and the one that always hits, and I never know how to deal with it, is when Robin is telling Whitney the story of her abortion, and it's always even bothered me. And there's a little kid in the background going, "Have you seen my mommy? Where's my mommy? Is my mom?" Like, and so it's just
Yeah.
That noise is perfect timing.
It is.
I guess the real question is, what do you do when you find it's a sacred text when it's so sacred?
No, that's good, because I still like Kanye West College Dropout album. I find myself working jobs until
they have taken everything from you.
Yes, and I know that I'm at the end because College Dropout starts to be played on repeat. It speaks to me, and it gives me faith to really move to what's next and to do what I know, like I am, what's in me and what I'm supposed to be doing, to move a step closer to that, and to get so much fulfillment, validation from someone who says such dumb shit now. Like, I struggle with that a lot.
Truly.
So, when it comes to Kanye, he's one of the artists that I don't fully cancel. So I'm not listening to anything that's current. All his old stuff, I'm still rocking with. Now, somebody by the name of Cobbert Relly, if you can catch that, I can't listen to his music.
Wait. Somebody by the name of what?
Cobbert Relly.
I don't know who that is.
Change the first letters around
of each one.
I've had too much wine. Somebody drop it in the private chat.
Hold on, I'm about to write it out. I've had too much. If we got COVID,
I can't listen to him because he was literally singing.
Oh, R. Kelly.
Oh,
we were trying to not
because
R. Kelly.
He was literally singing
really
underage children who had no consent. Like, I can't, in my right sanctified mind, continue to listen to that. Now, Kanye, college dropout, graduate, like those songs, he was somewhere else. So I'm like, okay, I'm bumping it. But now you on this whole other tip, and now you speaking at what's the white pastor? This is my word. Whatever it says, it says.
Shout out to Angie.
Okay. Look,
it says whatever it says. I believe it says. Oh, this is my
the blessings.
adult coloring book.
Oh, I have one of those too.
I think I can't fully cancel. I can't listen to anything new with Kanye. I could listen to old stuff, but it's still hard. But I always have to keep in my mind, like, we don't like to discuss Kanye's mental health. And I'm not saying his Trump stuff is because of the mental health. I'm not going to give him that cop out. But we don't discuss Kanye's mental health. We just say, oh, he crazy. He needs Jesus and it's his mama's fault. And I'm like, no, it run deeper to that. And Kanye, to me, the difference between Kanye and Andre 3000 is Andre 3000 has a good community of people that keep Andre together. And Kanye ain't had that.
I think I don't want to put the responsibility on his mama, because that was not her job.
Nope.
I feel like he had mental health issues prior to that.
Oh,
and when his mama died, I mean, there was hope in him that cannot be repaired. Even if he gets on his meds, he's in counseling, he's, with the people that he needs to be around, that's just something that is not going to be repaired within him. And so once you have that on top of the mental illness, and then you're with a family that treats Black men like, vultures, and it's just something to like get a pretty baby out of, you have all of these, and you have to also bring into the conversation power. So he has so much money now that he can pick and choose who he wants to have around him. So I feel the same way about Chris Brown. You can have folks around you who are trying to tell you the truth, but some people can't handle the truth. And so if you're telling me the truth about myself and I don't want to hear it, I'm gonna fire you, I'm gonna let you go, and I'm gonna get people around me who tell me what I want to hear.
Yeah.
Which is what I love about Waiting to Exhale. And I think Kia tweeted yesterday, because she was saying is they all could tell each other the ugly truth. They just couldn't look at themselves. And I think ain't that all of us? But I love that in every facet of every decision, somebody is sitting down with another sister to discuss it.
That's right. That's
and
right.
speaking of sitting down with sisters, we were sitting on the couch watching Babyface's live last night. And when he played Count on Me, I mean, my eyes got teary-eyed. Before I knew it, I was literally like sobbing. And Shariel turned around and was like, are you like, who are you thinking about when this song comes on? Wow. And I'm thinking about how Black women and sisterhood has literally saved my life.
Yeah.
Like, literally. And so to hear these lyrics playing, and I'm in such a healthy place now, it took me somewhere that I wasn't expecting. And I mean, I just sat there and I just kept crying. Like, I didn't have no words. It was like we were saying earlier, shoot. It was just like, that's all you could say was just just a spirit of a posture of gratitude.
That's right.
So Rashonda said, Rashonda points out that sitting with your sister is biblical. And Natasha, I'm sorry, Natasha said, count on me.
Yeah.
Yes.
Roll me out.
Roll me out.
Roll me out. Roll me out.
No, and you know what? Count on me. When I listened yesterday, which is the first time in like forever, because I have this thing with stuff that gets too much popular culture attention. It's numb to me.
That's how I feel about Waterfalls by TLC. I hate it.
I get it. I completely understand. And you know, honestly, the basis of my I don't like Stevie Wonder is all based on this, and isn't she lovely?
We can work through this.
Yeah.
We're not gonna do that today.
I'm with you.
We're gonna work through that.
It's like those were the two songs I heard. But anyway, so I had a fresh appreciation for the shoot, for the Count on Me yesterday, hearing it yesterday and this week, because it was disconnected from the pop culture oversaturation, and it was in my experiences with Black women who have always been there for me, who have, like Whitney said, literally saved my life.
So can I share with you all a story? Let me share with you a story. The last time I watched Waiting to Exhale before this time yesterday was a year ago, just about. It was Monday, and I had broken up with my boyfriend of 3 years the day before because I found out that he was cheating on me. And so I called. I called one friend as I was driving home from his house after we broke up, and told her. And then the next morning, I called one of my very best friends in the world. And mind you, at this time, she is also at the beginning of going through a divorce. And I called her and I said, I texted her and I said, I'm just letting you know that blah, blah, blah. And I broke up last night. I don't want to talk. I'll talk to you later. The text message I got back is, I'll see you in 45 minutes. And she came to my house.
Yeah.
And she ordered gin to the house and a sander.
Legally, unlike my situation, it was legal gin being delivered.
Very legal gin. Though it would have tasted better if it was illegal. Everybody knows. And we sat there, we watched Waiting to Exhale, and she didn't leave my house until she got there at 11 a.m. She didn't leave my house till probably 1 o'clock in the morning.
Man.
And she just sat there with me. And we sat there and we listened to music and we cried. Because mind you, she went through her own stuff. She in the middle of her own battle. Mm-hmm. But she showed up.
I don't want to stop and finish.
You done talked enough. I had said yesterday while it was playing that, like they were all in the beauty shop, and I guess it was the man who let everybody know in the shop that John and Bernie had just broken up. And in that moment, Gloria went to the phone, picked up that phone and called her girlfriend and was like, hey, what's going on? It was an immediate reaction. It's not like, Let me give her some time. It's like, let me at least extend myself to you. Right. To see how you're doing, even if you're not receptive of it. Let me, as a friend, jump in this moment and be like, "Hey, I'm here." Speaking of count on me, my aunt just passed away a couple weeks ago, non-COVID related. She had struggled for some years with brain cancer and breast cancer, and her youngest daughter is the same age as me. And there's a group of us, like younger cousins, all around the same age. So literally, like she passed away on a Friday, and like that Saturday morning, me and two of my other cousins were just like, we should just make a video singing "Count on Me" for them. Like, didn't like think about waking up, putting on a face, didn't think about any of that. Just like, we sing, this is what we do. This is how we get comfort in this moment. Like, we sat there and I figured out how to sync them videos together and sent it over. And just was like, hey, we love you. We're here for you. Whenever you feel like reaching back out.
That's right.
Yeah, count on me. Yeah,
like, count on me makes me sad.
Really, just that ministry of presence. And I didn't realize that's what it was called until I got to seminary and I had to take pastoral care and counseling. But I think about like my granny, somebody who raised 8 children of her own, but also was like the community mama. Like, so I used to be jealous, or I would get upset when people were like, you know, I love my mama Bonnie. I'm like, that ain't your granny. Like, that ain't your mama. Like, that's mine. Everybody doesn't have a grandmother. Everybody doesn't have their mama. So they look to people in the community to, you know, love upon them, to raise them up, X, Y, Z. And I remember, I never understood why her basement always looked like a combination of like Dillard's and Sam's Club. Like, all year, my entire life, my granny's basement was just always had stuff. When people would die in the community, she would say, grab 2 of them big old garbage bags and go down in the basement and grab blah, 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 blah. And just dropping things off to people's houses. Because sometimes people don't even know what they need. We don't even know what we need. And so that ministry of presence is being able to say, whenever you're ready, I'm here.
That's right.
That's right. And we're navigating through not being able to do that too, which hurts me very, you know, in thinking about my aunt passing away and my cousin being my age, being in Chicago, not being able to fly up there, not being able to be present at the funeral, not being able to around my cousin, to hug her, to hold her. That hurts. Like, the ministry of my life, Lord, ministry of presence, it's not happening right now. Like,
and it's very difficult. We have to. I think when we're figuring out how to.
Hold on. Okay,
Allison and I, and so we've had to. There have been some things that have happened these last now 3 months that we've had to like reimagine what presence looks like. So our line sisters, mama and auntie, both died from COVID within like a week of each other. Our line sister is an only child living in the same house that she was brought up in, that she lived in with her mama. So like, we can't necessarily go to the house because we are a line that rolls deep. Like, when one person shows up, you're going to have at least 35, 40 of us out of 50, just like we all here. So like, how does that look? So when her auntie died, some people just drove through the cemetery for the graveside service. We might not be able to get out and hug you, but you're going to see my face. Know I'm here.
That's right.
A couple of weeks ago, what was that, 2 or 3 weeks ago, Allison, we like did a drive-by by her house. Now, normally we love to like hug and embrace folks, and it wasn't a lot of that going on, but like, even with the 6 feet apart, like just seeing folks and being some of us don't know what it's like to be without our mothers in the physical realm. Yeah. But we're gonna be here, and if you need me, call me, call us, and we gonna roll up and help you figure it out.
You know, we were talking about the song "Count on Me." I never liked the song, but now when I listen to it, it makes me sad because all I think about is Whitney and Cece were best friends. Yeah. Then they weren't.
Yeah.
And so I couldn't listen to the song without thinking about like y'all was singing this song to each other and it just fell apart. And I don't think they ever I don't even know if they ever reconciled before her death. And so that song is sad for me because I just think about broken sisterhoods that didn't make it every time I hear it.
Do you want to say more about that? Because I didn't know that story.
Whitney, all I remember growing up is like Whitney and CeCe Winans were everywhere together. They were the best of friends. They showing up.
Of Whitney, like with her and Natalie Cole, and CeCe Winans is sitting like right next to her. They did and
they did everything together. CeCe would come, Whitney would be at all the gospel stuff, CeCe be at all the Whitney stuff, and then around the late 90s, like there's probably, I remember them being on Oprah talking about Count on Me and then recording it as best friends and sisters. And then around the late 90s, it just went apart.
To put into consideration, you have CeCe who's coming from a very religious family.
Yeah.
Whitney who was struggling with a very apparent addiction.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. So for CeCe, it could have been, I can't be there for her physically, but I'm praying.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
And I think she talked about that stuff too, but it's a sadness of, to me, and I say this all the time as somebody who's gone through it, is I've been through breakup with men, and I've been through breakups with sister best friends. And that's to me, there was nothing more painful. I remember nothing more painful than a sister best friend breakup. It is a different, and I saw a tweet somebody said, because you expect niggas to fail you, but your sister,
you don't expect that. I literally, not to cut you off, I literally just had this conversation with my client the other day, and I was telling her that we go into romantic relationships always having that little pocket of somebody gonna fuck up and it ain't gonna go how we thought, and we leave room for that. But when it comes to like our platonic friendships with our sisters, we go in like full heart, opened up, like this gonna be here forever. And when that shit goes left, that is a grief that nobody prepares you for.
Which is why everybody is so highly triggered with Insecure this year. Like I'm looking at the Insecure tweets. I'm like, y'all, half this about Molly, half this about the bitch you still don't want to talk to. Like, just say like Insecure is highly triggering for Black women this year, and we don't want to talk about it. I'm like, half of this ain't got to do with Molly and Issa. It's that you and your sister friend are still in the middle of a fallout.
So, are y'all saying we need to do a Theology and Film Insecure edition?
Probably.
The timeline be triggered.
They're gonna be mad at me. They're gonna be mad. Because I don't know whose fallout is worse, and I'm still trying to figure out, is it Issa and Molly or Joan and Tony's on Girlfriends? Because Joan and Tony,
you and Rebecca are here. She just said, "Hell yeah, I'm triggered with Insecure, Girlfriends, and all the shit."
Oh, I mean, I still ain't over Khadijah and Regine falling out for 2 episodes.
Yeah.
Look,
she moved out of that whole apartment for 2 episodes. She was gone to the ghetto, by the way. She moved to the hood.
The comments are coming in really fast. Insecure is touching everyone's nerves.
You all are not doing well.
Rashonda said Joan and Tony is worse.
Joan and Tony was bad. Tony left the whole series. We never got a resolution to that ever.
Oh, and that has some real world overtures because of the way that because Tony, what's her name in real life? Jill?
Yeah.
The only one who held her ground on the money negotiation table.
She did.
And I know they're not Black, but Shariel is a huge Sex and the City fan.
Listen.
Watched all of them.
Hold on, time out, Whitney. No one knows who Shariel is except for the people who know who Shariel is.
Oh, I felt like that was a common theme. That's my partner.
Everybody don't know you.
Oh, I feel like I'm just talking about my bad. And I was like, one, I never really watched it because one, I ain't have HBO growing up. Two, once I got to college and it could have, had my own little cable package, HBO was so expensive. So I was like, I'm not paying for that. And 3 is white women. So I was just like, I don't have any interest in any of this. And once I actually watched it and watched the movies and to learn the background story between
Carrie and Samantha in real life.
Baby.
Yeah.
I said, first of all, y'all
It ain't no love there, baby.
None.
Ain't no love.
Ain't never getting a 3.
From the movies, you cannot tell
That's
that
right.
they are like beefing.
They acting.
Method acting.
Listen.
405. Okay.
And I'm like a Sex in the City. I was a Sex in the City stan. I was in
Me too.
In the life. Yeah.
Sex in the City is part of the reason I was afraid to watch Waiting to Exhale as an adult, because I watched Sex in the City. I watched Sex in the City in college, like where it was on, and like I was in love with this man and he was my big. So I related to Carrie. And then I watched in my 20s and I was like, damn, that wasn't kind of quite
your 20s, and then watch it again in your 30s.
And then I watched it in my
the same age as them.
Ooh, or older. Now I'm older.
I think I'm the age as Carrie in the last season. I was like, I need to rewatch it this summer.
Yeah.
And my fear of watching is my fear of seeing myself.
Ooh.
And I used to find relatability and comfort in and being disgusted by their behavior.
Carrie, so, for me, that's exactly it.
I'm Carrie.
And now I hate her.
And so I hate her. Been Samantha.
Yeah. Do I hate a previous version of myself then? Like,
right.
Yeah.
Well, we can hate versions of ourselves.
Mm-hmm. Oh, for sure.
Because there are parts of me that I'll be like, I don't want nobody to know that I think like this, and I believe.
Lord, yeah.
So I'm going to compartmentalize and set this part over here, which is why so many people are getting triggered with Insecure, because now you have.
I went to go find this article on TV Guide that Prentice Penny wrote about the backlash of Molly. But yes, go.
So many people wait. I'm sorry, y'all. I'm sorry. Natasha said, well, if we're gonna go there, think about the sisters on Good Times. They didn't get along in real life.
Sure didn't.
What?
I didn't know that.
Florida didn't get along.
I did not know that.
They number one, nobody damn near got along on Good Times.
Fair.
Well, that's fair.
So, no. And Marla Gibbs didn't get along with people on 227. I can't remember which character it was, but she did not get along with somebody on 227. I don't know if it might have been. Don't quote me. So
well,
I don't know.
What? You know what my grandmother said? Teeth and tongue fall out and they're the closest thing together. So
that's because Roshonda said about Tony and Joan, said Tony was the love of Joan's life.
Yeah.
And I think that's what's going on with Molly and Insecure, because they are the love of each other's lives, and I'm
in a friendship like that. And when we fall out, we fall out.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Prentice Penny a couple of weeks ago, right when everything just like went down. The article came out on May 10th, so 2 weeks ago, or maybe last week, 2 weeks. Anyway, he says more people are like Molly than they are like Issa, and no one likes to see that, even if it's subconscious. I think it's interesting. I no longer predict what people are going to do or how they'll react. We just try to tell good stories. And
I can't get the support for Molly. I can't. It's so clear cut for me that I can't not to say that there isn't wrong on both sides, sure, but the fracture, the real fracture, sits directly in Molly's lap.
Here's the thing,
I think it's
when Molly called her therapist on the last episode of Insecure,
which I didn't watch, and I also don't care about spoilers because guess what? So
okay, good, because I don't care about spoilers either. So I'm glad. Spoiler alert for people who care about spoilers. If you did not watch last night, please mute us now. So, I related to that because what Molly saw, now I don't relate to Molly's behavior as a whole, but that moment I related to because she saw herself destroying her own stuff that she wanted to hold on to. And her first thing, what I heard her say is, I'm fucking up my life. Please call me back as soon as possible. And that is me calling my therapist, I'm really messing this up. Please show up so I can talk shit to you and stop destroying my relationships with everyone else.
I think go ahead.
I was just going to say, what are y'all's coping mechanisms? What do you do when you realize you are messing up your sisterhoods or you're messing up your relationships? What do you have?
I have a best friend sister.
Hold on, one at a time. Allison.
I have I'm a weird person where my best friend groups I've kept since childhood. So I have a childhood best friend group, we're still together. I have a middle school best friend group still together. And my high school best friend plus a college sister is 5 of us. And when there's a break in the sisterhood, our coping mechanism is to turn to another sister and say, tell me where I messed up. And so I think that's the thing with Issa and Molly that I'm seeing is like, to me, they're both responsible. And the hard thing to do, and when a sisterhood breaks up, is to say, not who you'll never heal a sisterhood if you're focused on who's more wrong, because you're both wrong. And if you try to go into you're more wrong than the other, you're just going to get stuck there. You're not going to get to the point, okay, let's see how we can heal and work this together. So my coping mechanisms for sisterhood is I have certain people in my life who are my accountability people, and I have to call and say, tell me where I'm wrong before I even go into, okay, this is where the other person wronged me. Help me understand where I'm wrong so I can change my filter on how to address their wrongness.
Yeah.
I will also,
and that's hard.
Along those lines, like remaining in communication with several. So I have, like Allison, I have various communities, but remaining in like true communion with these communities allows you to see, like, before it even gets to that point where there's now a fracture. And that's part of the reason why I love, Lord, what happened to my book, Spirit of Intimacy, because it talks about how sometimes relationships get to this point and people are like, how did it get to it? Because we try to keep everything like to ourselves. We don't want people to know our business. I want to be perceived as like this great person, X, Y, and Z. But when you're in true community with people, folks are able to check in and say, you know, how you and such and such doing, or what's going on with such, and you don't feel no judgment. You don't feel like you got to hide. And so we've done, I don't know when it happened, but for some reason we feel like we have to do everything in isolation. But then once it becomes like this huge problem, now all of a sudden, can somebody help me figure out like how I got to this point? And it's because we've done away with living all facets of our lives within community.
Yeah.
We don't understand community. I have a whole side rant about why that has us in the situation we are with COVID now, but that is a whole nother.
And I will also say that sometimes our sister friends, no matter how much we love and appreciate them, we can come to them and have a very, you know, girl, so I noticed something the other day that, you know, I just didn't like, blah, blah, blah. Regardless of how nice we say it, how calm we say it, how low our voice is.
Yep.
They are going to receive it and hear it in another way that has nothing to do with how we said it. And from there, it's going to just go into its own thing. And so everybody's not always, you know, able to really have truthful conversations without feeling like they're being attacked.
That's right.
I say that's a personal experience. There have been times when sisters have been like, "Wit, I ain't like X, Y, Z." Well, I mean, I ain't saying like that.
Natasha said, "I appreciate the friends of Issa and Molly who see something is off. They don't take sides. They don't try to mediate a reconciliation without forcing it or spreading the fracture. They're just there. Like, it's kind of the presence thing, right?
Because they've been there. They were just there."
And I think that's hard I think that's something we don't talk about in sisterhood groups, is that when two sisterhoods within a group fall out, how that impacts everybody else.
Lord.
You almost feel like divorced kids. Like,
Yes.
okay, I got to hang with this friend and this friend. Let me not talk about this two different skills.
Yep.
That's the part I do love about Girlfriends, is they showed that it wasn't, oh, Tony's just gone. We went through a whole 2 seasons of them dealing with the grief and loss of Tony.
Yep. They don't just go away.
Woo. I have some things to say, but it's from unresolved situations. So
I was hoping to say, Kia hit me up the other day and was like,
"No, I did.
Have you talked to X, Y, and Z?" Because they reached out to me, and I was like,
"Who is that?"
I'm not gonna say who, because that doesn't matter. But my thing is like the fact that like
that's your response.
Yeah, Mariah Carey. I don't know who that is.
I don't know her.
I don't know.
Has she recognized Jennifer Lopez yet? Does she recognize that Jennifer Lopez exists yet? Because I don't think she does.
Mariah Carey's voice is a sacred text for me.
Yeah, Allison is happy that they're trying to get glitter
Glitter is on Spotify. I don't care. Me and all 11 fans is excited.
Y'all live y'all lives. Do it.
All 11.
Kia, can you block this poly person?
Right. I probably have to go to I probably have to log on to Facebook to. Oh no!
I didn't even realize we could see the comments over here.
Yes. Okay. Boom. Done. All right. So Bernie. When I was watching Bernie on television yesterday, I realized that Bernie encapsulated all of my fears from relationships, and I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. But I feel like I have been hyper prepared not to give myself away for a man. And I don't think that's a bad thing necessarily, but I wonder if it makes me less, what's the word I'm looking for, y'all? Less
open?
Maybe that's it. Like
vulnerable
for opportunity. Like
vulnerable.
If I just cut off immediately when I see someone becoming my Mouse. What was his name in the movie? Because Mouse was his name in Soul Food. What was his name in what was Miles' name in Waiting to Exhale?
I cannot remember. I want to say Michael?
No. Michael, maybe.
I don't even remember. I don't even think they give him a name. John.
So, because here's the thing. Bernadette was a bad bitch. She had an MBA. She gave herself to this man and his dreams. And like one of my foundational relationship rules is I come into this relationship with my dreams, you come into it with yours. And if it can't work with both of our dreams, like if one of us has to sacrifice our dreams, then maybe we shouldn't just be together. Because I feel like I shouldn't have to. It's one thing to make sacrifice. Sacrifices isn't the word.
Yes, it's not sacrifices and it's not compromising, but coming to an agreement.
Yes, it's one thing to come to agreements in relationships. But when you are sacrificing your hopes and dreams and desires, when you are sacrificing yourself as a person, that's like the biggest red flag to me. Mm-hmm. And I feel like that's why Bernadette ended up on I'm Not Gonna Cry. She sacrificed herself for love. And I just feel like you shouldn't have to sacrifice yourself for love.
She was completely justified in burning that nigga shit up. Burning it up. Even the white woman who recently had to let her staff go of like 13 people.
No, had to fold her whole company.
Because her nigga ass husband, and when I say nigga, it is inclusive of genders.
Okay, I'm gonna ask you, Whitney, as a sister, I don't believe white people deserve to be referred to as nigga. Like that is that's like my thing.
No, it's fine.
Nigga it's a love language. Everyone does not deserve that.
I meant it in the trifling sense of the word is what I was leading to.
I understand that. Javon said concessions. That is the word we were looking for. Concessions. Go ahead, Whitney.
And I was like, he couldn't take care of the baby for 3 days, and so you giving up your entire business and the livelihoods of 13 other people just because he could. For me, I don't see how I could remain in that marriage. I just don't. Because we raised this child together. We agreed, obviously, that we were going to have a child because if we didn't, I would have terminated the pregnancy. Like there were just so many things that could have stopped us from getting to this point. But now all of a sudden, because you have to have like this hands-on role with it, I can't handle it. It's just too much. And I got to fold up my whole business plus providing employment for 13 other people. And you don't see how that is an issue?
He was unemployed. And it was 3 days. Like you have no other job and you can't take care of the child you made for 3 days.
I think sometimes we forget that a lot of women weren't taught anything outside of being a helpmate for their man.
Oh.
Like that's it. And a lot of women have been taught you put the man first, you do what he wants, he's the head of the house. So if he wants you to sit, I mean, we could look at World War II and when all the women went to the factory, black women was in the factory before the white women. Like we can look at them and now it's we back, y'all got to get back in the kitchen. So it's a lot. I think sometimes it's easy to say what we would do in that situation, but then sometimes I think, what would I do in that situation if I wasn't exposed to a woman's right, place, and worth?
I also think I see women doing that, not necessarily at that level because they don't have companies, but I definitely see women, especially during this COVID world, when homeschooling is a thing. I see professional women that I know who are married, who have spouses in their house, and somehow their schedules are all consumed with both their jobs and the household and the children and the children's education. And there was one person I said, "Is your husband there?" Because all I see you doing is things. Where is your spouse? Like, where is the person who's supposed to be here helping you do this? And I'll tell you, watching this has once again put into my head, I just don't know y'all about raising children with men. I don't know.
It's the ghetto.
So part of the reason that I decided, I raised my son as a single parent and not even in a co-parenting situation. Like, and I tell people like, I don't ever want to co-parent. I didn't have to co-parent with this one. Like, that nigga didn't try to show up to ask any questions and I didn't look for him. I made the decisions and boom. So, but that was also exhausting to have to do everything. And part of me not trusting men to be there consistently was part of the reason I decided I didn't want any more kids, because even within a marriage, I don't want to ever be the only person raising a kid. I don't want the emotional and mental responsibility of all the kids' needs to follow me ever again. Follow me and only me ever again. And, and I see way too many married women in that situation. And I don't know, maybe they're comfortable with it because she seemed okay and she seemed very happy-go-lucky with, I made the decision about what was best for my family.
Well, I'll argue, and I would love to see this same story done by a financial journalism organization, because I'd argue if you were there, you were already there. You are just spinning this into a story. I don't for a second believe that you had a profitable business in this time and that you decided because your husband couldn't handle the responsibility of these children. If you had a business that was really making money, you'd find somebody to come and take them 3 days. If it couldn't be your husband, you'd find somebody. There's rich folks all across this country still using nannies. Don't give me that stuff.
So there are a lot of places I want to go now, and because the comments are popping too. But I will start with you all, and I will say, what is the church's role and responsibility in telling women that they are helpmates and to telling women that they are supposed to sacrifice for their family, their children, their spouse? Whitney, let's go.
One, thinking about how there are so many wife boot camps that have become popular in like the last 2 years. And in so many of them, I don't care if you're on a small, it's only 10 or 15 people in your whole like network of white boot camping, or if you're somebody like Heather Lindsay who has thousands of women following you and believing that this is the way to be. One, it benefits the church to keep women in this box and to tell you that this is your role. You don't step outside of this. Like, this is what you do, and we're going to keep it like that. The funny part about that is that women make up the majority of church congregations, particularly for Black churches.
Yeah.
Like, when we stop giving, shit gets dry real fast.
It's customer retention.
Exactly, Candace. Exactly. And so it benefits to preach this whole,
that's right,
Christ is the head, and under Christ we have the husband, and then under the husband we have the wife, and then we have the family.
Yeah.
If I tell you that there's equity in this, then we gonna lose what we've been preaching. And I don't know if people gonna be coming back. which is why I don't fool with Heather Lindsay, because she is preaching that women, and the thing is, it's not that I don't believe in submission. That's not it. In the words of Jill Scott, if you can't tell me what to do, you can't tell me what to do.
Come on now.
But if you can tell me what to do, then you can tell me what to do. I feel that. And submission is just not a hetero thing. Submission happens in any type of romantic relationship.
Yeah.
Sometimes there's stuff that I'd be like, now I don't see why she's telling me that this is what we need to do. But because I've seen how she navigates in other situations, I'm going to submit to that. I don't have no issue.
But here's something that's important, Whitney. You said, I'm going to submit to that, not I'm going to submit to her. So when you're in a partnership, people are experts at different things. Like, your gifts are not my gifts. So here, I want to be able to trust my partner with decisions that I don't want to be bothered with, that aren't my strengths or gifts. And submit to, like, I don't necessarily understand why you're doing this. Or I may not even necessarily agree with you doing this. I may, if it was just me by myself, I would do something differently. But I trust you and what you've proven to be best for us in the past. So I'm gonna go with it.
Yeah, like, I'm somebody, when I get money, because I wasn't raised to appreciate money or to understand that sometimes it's gonna run out. So you need to look at your finances, understand what's coming in, what's going out. Don't be out here just, swiping the card X, Y, and Z. My partner, on the other hand, is like, okay, this is what we've spent in this 1 year of being in this house together. This is where it's gone to rent. This is where it's gone to Georgia Power. But this whole spending money on food, this is enough to pay tuition for somebody each month. We need to rearrange this.
Is it happening? They coming?
I didn't know what it was, but it's fireworks.
Decatur, where is greater? Let me shut up. My fireworks are going on.
We're going to start popping out shortly.
Oh,
look,
listen.
People who have been to my house, like, at any moment, it could be fireworks, it could be gunshots. Like, you just don't always know.
I'm in one of those neighborhoods too, where one side of the street is fireworks, the other side is
firework, gunshot, firework.
That's right. Oh, wait, I'm sorry, car engine backfiring. So one or the other.
It could be you're like, or was that a car?
And you know what's sad? I don't jump for any of them anymore.
No. Here's a funny story. My homegirl, my best friend, just moved into a new neighborhood, and it was like, "Is it safe?" And she was like, "Yeah, because when some gunshots went off, the police came." And I said, "Well, why did the police come?" And she was like, "Because they were shooting." I was like, "Oh, that's girl, safe. Police don't never come with gunshots."
That ain't safe for you.
That was a solid 10 years in Detroit where they did not come.
Because they were shooting. Why?
Oh, all right. I want to hop into these comments here. Natasha points out. Can y'all see it? Okay, it's popping up slowly. Last week, although discussing motherhood, Dr. Renita Wing states mothering is about trade-offs and making sure bitterness is not present in the trade-off. That is the same for marriage partnership.
Oh, Jesus, listen.
I think that's good for motherhood because here's the thing that irritates me about dating relationships, and men always be like, don't date a woman with daddy issues. Honey, ain't nothing worse than a man with mama issues.
Ain't not a one.
Ain't nothing worse, more bleeding, what you screaming at. I'm not her. Yeah, I just asked if you wanted pancakes. Why you yelling? Like, ain't nothing.
I ain't none of your mama.
Come on, ain't never made me no pancakes. Whoa, I wish you would have left. She would have went and got some milk or something, because good grief.
Okay. Courtney, talking about Bernadette, says, I'll let it pop up before I start reading. She was a bad bitch. My relationship rule now is just one. You treat me the way I treat me. You treat me the way I treat me. I don't need a relationship, so I only want one that lets me continue to love the way I am able to love me without you.
Yeah, that's good.
I have something to push back just a little bit on that.
Okay.
sometimes when we're loving ourselves, we love ourselves because, like we said earlier, we don't have to get to the ugly parts of ourselves. And so you can't tell me about myself because you don't know me. I've been with me 34 years. Like,
Okay.
Ooh, girl, those fireworks are going off.
You don't have to.
So usually I don't jump, but I am sitting by the window and I feel like they are in my backyard. So like it is really super loud here.
No, but like every time that somebody is loving you differently is not necessarily a bad thing. It's just that now we're allowing ourselves to be seen differently. And so there are some areas that I need to like clean up, but I would have never noticed that had I stayed alone. But that doesn't mean that she's loving me badly. It's we have to put accountability into this as well. I think sometimes because we remain, before I met Shariel, I had ended something with this nigga and I was like, you know what? I gave it a good run. I gave it a good run. I'm good. Honestly, I don't need nobody. And the way that I was seeing myself, the way that I was loving myself wasn't necessarily the healthiest way, but it was protecting and guarding me. I didn't want to experience hurt again. But when we open ourselves up and it's like we inviting people in to, you know, give us that hard, honest love. And I don't even want to say it's hard and honest. It's just another form of love. Love isn't always peaches and sunshine.
No, it is not.
But social media will tell you, if you ain't posting the other person every other post, if you ain't got no joint page, if you're not doing X, Y, and Z, then are y'all still really? I mean, I've gotten plenty of messages from people being like, "Are y'all still together? I ain't seen her posting on your page in a while." Are you paying these bills over here? I'm not going to be.
Here's the thing: when you're in a relationship, you also don't have to perform that healthy relationship. Like, and one thing that I have made it a habit of doing, because at one point in time, I was getting so caught up in the social media interactions with the people who I was in relationship with that I couldn't separate what was happening on social media from what was real. So I am very much into muting and not communicating at all with someone I'm talking to on social media. I have a very clear understanding of what we're doing in real life.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I was just about to say that, you know, we do everything now. Well, we don't, not we, but life makes us everything we do. We need to become influencers of it. So if I get into a relationship now, I'm a relationship influencer. I'm not. Girl, I'm barely making it.
Wife, when she posted, "Don't ask me any relationship advice," I took that nigga back 1,000 times.
1,000. Okay.
Don't ask me.
I have no idea what I'm doing here. It was like when I was gardening. I don't know what I'm doing. I put some shit in the ground. We'll see what comes up.
We're going to see what comes up. Dead ass.
I don't know.
That's a relationship too.
That is. No, but let me be clear. I tried to plant the best stuff. I used the best soil I had available. I used the best tools. I put it where I was supposed to put it. I put it in the shade where it was supposed to be in the shade. I put it in the sun if it was supposed to be in the sun. What grows up out of it, I can't tell you.
Come on.
Because I'm not the only thing involved.
Yes. Are you because you out here with a good word?
I am not ready to be ordained because I like to say the word fuck.
Hey, that's what I'm saying too.
Raise your hand saying the word
seminary.
It's my favorite word.
What's my favorite word?
Fuck.
Okay, Natasha says, this is back to women sacrificing. She says, we are taught. You fix his plate, he eats before kids. A lot of generational changes.
So I recently had this conversation and somebody was asking me about, you know, what are my relationship dynamics now that I'm in a same gender relationship? And I was saying, interestingly enough, I think it's because I come from such a large matriarchal family. Like I was primarily raised with my mama's side of the family. Like I told y'all, it's 7 girls and 1 boy. So it was my
Royce. I can't even say his name.
Oh, girl, Royce, he's so spoiled. Child, bye. But we had my granny and pawpaw, but then they had these 8 kids, and the majority of them were all women. So I was always surrounded around very strong Black women.
Same.
Now, we fixed men's plates, but it wasn't because they couldn't fix it. It was my pawpaw, he in his 80s. Man plate. My older uncles are in their 60s. Fix their plate. If we're the same age, like I cannot remember a time when my aunties said to, you know, my other cousins who had male partners, like, girl, you got to fix their plate. I didn't grow up like that. It was very much like, if you are able-bodied, you fix your own food, you fix your plate. We're going to fix the kids' plates because they be putting on stuff too much and wasting food.
Because now they're going to drop the greens and nobody has the time.
And nobody has the time. You get what I'm saying? And so I translate that to my same partnership. If I go somewhere and it's people that I know Shariel doesn't, I'm going to say, you need me to fix your plate? Because, you know, it's a lot going on. When we go places, it's the same way. But I didn't realize that was abnormal until Black Twitter kind of came around. And they were like, if you don't fix your man plate, I was like, first of all, my granny don't even fix her own plate. Like,
that's my house.
Funny.
My dad,
go ahead. I'm sorry.
My dad's a pastor. My grandfather's a pastor. So it was always this double thing of, we don't eat until the man and the pastor of the house gets his plate first. Now, what's funny though is it was always my mom and my granny fixing their plates. But what I was raised is, you fix your man's plate, but nobody else is allowed to fix his plate but you.
Yes.
He fixes his own plate.
That's right.
Or you fix the plate.
That's right.
And it's time. But it was funny is there are times I remember, it's always funny is that when my mom preaches, because she's a preacher, when my mom preaches, she don't really fix my dad's plate. Because she's like, I just preach.
If I preach, I have to run my plate.
So does you fix your plate, or does someone else fix both their plates?
Oh, when I preach?
They
take me to Red Lobster and they pay. They take me to Red Lobster.
I can't hear y'all. I'm sorry. Say that again.
When I preach, they take me to Red Lobster and they pay. Or they take me somewhere else to eat and they pay. Or I come to the house and the food is already cooked.
That ass to Red Lobster.
So it's always, my mom has always struggled because she's a womanist, but she had to learn that being a womanist means you still can't be traditional in her roles.
So Allison, I find I align very directly with that. By my very nature, I am a nurturer. I like taking care of people. If you come into my house, it doesn't matter who you are, I'm going to take care of you. And so when I'm in relationships, I don't do this thing where I need to fix your plate or have to fix your plate. You are a grown up. You, I assume, can do this now. But I enjoy doing it. If I have cooked a meal, I want to plate it a certain way. I want to give a full presentation.
So important.
It is. And so that's about more than this idea that because I am a woman, that I am here to take care of you. I bring that same spirit to everyone in my life, right? Like,
and I think that's important also, to feel safe enough in your relationships to be that nurturer without it becoming all that you can be.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Well, no, it'll never be all I can be, because most days I'm not doing that shit. And that's the difference. See, I just got out of a relationship. The person I got out of the relationship with did most of the cooking in that relationship, like 95% of the cooking.
Oh Lord, I've seen what you done for others.
No, you don't, girl. Because he also did 95% of the cheating. So,
block that part, Lord.
Don't do that part, Jesus, but the other part. But like, he was definitely like the kind of like, he cooked, he cleaned. If I left clothes at his house, he'd wash them and fold them and put them away. Like, and but flawed to the. If I could have just. Anyhow, another story. You know what? I'll send a link out. I told the whole story at a storytelling event.
Okay.
Have at it. Have at it.
Send that with
Candace, you gotta send us these stories for our podcast notes, because the people are gonna be looking for these stories.
I will do it. Where do I? Yeah, I'll do them.
Email them to me and I'll put them. Okay, so I have a story before we get back to these comments. My cousin showed up. So I come from a family, like, everyone has long marriages, but very matriarchal, very strong women. And not even like weak men, but the men just like, they gonna do what they do. Like, I want to
let them have it.
Break my beer, mind my business. My cousin showed up with a girl for Thanksgiving. He stands in the kitchen beside the girl as she fixes his plate. And he's like, a little bit more greens. Now, I don't want none of that. And me, my mom, I can't remember if my sister was there. I feel like she wasn't there, and I told her this on the phone. My mom looks at him or looks at them and says, "You fixing his plate?" And it was so weird because she didn't even have the ability or the knowledge to fix his plate without.
You don't even know that man.
And I'm like, and we were just like all befuddled and confused by her performing what it was to be someone's woman. And I was like, "Mama, you didn't fix my daddy's plate?" She was like, "I used to when my daddy was around because he told me to, but I don't anymore." And I was like, "Daddy, what would you do if I brought a man home and didn't fix his plate?" Because the kid ain't never brought a man home except for this one time in college, but that was just a random weekend and not anything. And he was like, "That ain't my business. That's between y'all. Like, what do I care?" And it's just like
how two grown folks want to act with each other is their business.
That's their business.
That's your business.
If it's not bothering me,
like that.
And I think sometimes as women who are deemed themselves strong, or the strong Black women, sometimes we feel like we have to be somewhere between fixing a plate and I could do bad all by myself, and not understand it could be a balance of both.
Honestly, I think that's my autobiography title.
It is definitely an ebb and a flow. And
you can want the traditional roles and still want, like, I want to be able to preach in pants, but I also want to do to pay for my meal. Okay. I want, like, it's okay to be both. And I think as women, we struggle with, it got to be one way or the other. And I think feminism and womanism has enough room for you to have those traditional roles as long as they're your choice.
I saw somebody tweet yesterday, if I'm going on a date, I think regardless of gender, the other person should pay. This is rooted in the fact that I don't want to pay.
If you invite me somewhere,
hello,
you are paying.
My core belief is that you should pay.
You are paying.
So my mom is weird. Clearly by the stories I'm telling. Okay, Queen Felicia is radical. I'll say that way. And that she taught me two things growing up. One, in high school, is always keep two boyfriends, because if I kept two boyfriends, I couldn't fall in love and get serious with one and give it up in high school quick. So just keep two. I ain't learned and I stopped keeping two since. But the other thing is that she was always like, if you don't want a man to feel like he owes you something, don't let him pay. So I have a hard time paying letting a man pay for me, or a woman, on a first date. I always go Dutch. I always go Dutch on a first date. Like, no, I got my own tab, nigga, because you're not owed anything because you pay for these Cheddar Bay biscuits. Unless you pay for like 12 dozen of them, then maybe I might. But
if there's a shrimp and you paying and we drinking,
now ultimate feast. Now I don't know.
You may have an old ludicrous lyric that I can't remember because that's how old it is, like 03. But he says something about you owe me. You see this McDonald's cup, you owe me, and I'm just like, no. Ash Nick brings up something that we talked about pre-show. We anticipated this one. And she said, that's what preachers like Pastor Todd are teaching women to be helpmates. Rebuke it. And we talked about this, Whitney. Come on back and join us.
Maybe ain't that another show?
Pastor Todd showed up this week on the Twitters around sexuality and soulmates and soul ties and all that good stuff. Yes.
It doesn't make sense. It doesn't even agree with what's actually in the Bible. Like,
so let's back up. And what did he say, Jocelyn? Let's talk about what he said before we.
He said the hookup culture means you hook up with one person, then you rip apart with them. Hook up with another person, you rip apart, and you can never fulfill God's purpose for you. because people are walking around with pieces of you.
God damn it.
King David would like a word.
Then King David fulfilled King David's purpose, and he walked around with all the genders in him.
Why are people selling that? And why are people buying it? Why?
Because people want to know why they're lonely. People want to know why they're lonely.
Child.
Okay, Whitney's hands up. Let's go.
So
again, preaching this benefits the church.
That's right.
Wait, time out. Shoot moment. So you're saying it benefits the church, but not necessarily the people who are hearing this message?
Because then you got women who are upset that they're like, I can't figure out, is it because I had sex when I had a boyfriend in college? Is that why God hasn't expanded my ministry? So I'm going to stay in this church.
Come on.
Under this preaching until God reveals
where I'm supposed to work.
Mm-hmm. That is bullshit. But I'm going somewhere else with that.
It doesn't apply to men.
It doesn't apply to men. Like, we know that already.
No.
But the thing is, people like to use this whole soul tie thing and take you from Adam and Eve. There was nobody else around except the two of them. There was nobody else. There just wasn't. And then if we get to David was low-key Future. Just out here, just like...
just 3 1-year-olds.
So David literally saw a woman take a bath, decided
I want her, but kill the nigga that she with so that I can get her and go claim the nigga baby. Like, I tell people all the time, the Old Testament was the original love in hip hop.
Listen,
that's my favorite.
It went down.
It's the original love in hip hop. It's full of mess. It's full of drama.
It was messy.
And
it was messy.
It looks like our lives today.
Yes, it does.
It's no different.
And instead of saying we could grow and learn and be better people if we use the Old Testament as a mirror and let it talk to us about our lives and what was good and bad about what we're doing, instead of this whole thing that is kind of anti-Semitic, semantic. What's the word? Semantic. That's the word. Anti-Semitic. Woo!
We got there.
We got there. And talking about Old Testament God and New Testament God. And like, instead of doing that, if we just used it as a mirror and grew from the stories that we see, it's a lot more beneficial to us in the way we treat ourselves and each other.
But then we would have to actually deal with ourselves.
Ooh.
If we looked at the Old Testament. And for a lot of saints, they have what I like to call saved amnesia. Like, oh, I've been saved. I ain't never done nothing. Oh, the baby was just premature. She wasn't born in 6 months. I promise. She was just premature. Like, no, y'all got married because the baby was here. Like, so we would have to actually have those real conversations, and it would have to just shift our theology of who God says we are. What does it mean to be saved? What is grace? What does that look like? And that's a difficult conversation. I also find that the men who preach this the most tend to be either the biggest hoes or wrestling with their own sexuality.
Okay, I'm just gonna put this comment up here.
Put it up.
And if y'all want to dig deeper, we will. But
listen. Okay, that is the future.
Okay, I'm going to read the comment for the people who will be listening on the podcast. Must be why Jamal Bryant can't be called all God called him to be. Oh, must be why Jamal Bryant can't be all God called him to be. All the women in the congregation walking around with pieces of him.
Literally, babies.
Future.
I want to know who's walking around with my book in them. Because I would like it back. So could I go have sex with him and get my book back? Because I got a book in me, but it won't come out. So maybe I done fucked it into somebody. And can they fuck it back into me?
In the words of Favorite Parts.
How does it work? Is there an instruction manual?
You need to go back through your list, Candace.
Well,
and just have sex with everyone.
Well,
at best.
Well, guys, we're out.
I have broke off before the mic time.
I can't quite complete that list anymore.
Because then you have to change your
after a while. You be like, somebody told me the other day. I asked them about somebody else from undergrad, and they were like, "Do you remember X, Y, and Z from when y'all?" And I was like, "Wait, we did? Like, once you get to a certain age,
yeah." Well, I think
your number resets after 7 years. That's what I believe. Can't nobody tell me different.
Listen.
And this is one of my friends who has a very good memory, and she was like, X, Y, and Z happened, and I was just like,
nah, I wouldn't have done that.
Literally, I said, he ain't even my type. Literally, that's what my response was to her.
He was that night.
Well, apparently, hello, 07.
That's Waiting to Exhale, though. This comes up into Waiting to Exhale. So we have this soul tie theology that's coming out where it's saying you only sleep with your husband. Whoever you match with, that is who you're supposed to match with forever. And then in I can't remember the line now. If you remember, Whitney, do you remember the line? Is that why your hand is up? Where I needed to feel good that night. Go ahead.
Bernie says that. She says, I needed to be held, even if it is a lie.
So thinking about how we tell women, not men, don't have sex before marriage, don't do X, Y, and Z, but then the minute that them rings are put on, you automatically supposed to be swinging from the chandelier, know how to do it from the back.
Will somebody help me understand it?
Flip it X, Y, and Z. I can name so many people and who are divorced because they lived into the whole purity culture. They did the whole shebang, got to the wedding, got to the honeymoon, cried the night of their wedding because they were like, now everybody is about to know that I've had sex. When I get back home, everybody's going to know that I'm no longer a virgin. Yep. Everybody's going to be interested in what I'm doing sexually. I don't even know who I am anymore.
That's right. That's
like,
right.
I can name 10 people easily who have become divorced within 5 years because they did the whole purity gamut. And then they were like, but that's not who I am. But the church, their pastors, their parents have said, this is your identity. You have to be rooted in this. And now they don't know who they are.
Mm-hmm. My grandmother used to tell, my grandmother was a sweet, kind Christian woman, sang in the gospel choir every Sunday. Used to call her Cotton. That's how soft she was. That was her nickname, was Cotton. And she said to me in this sweet little voice, never a woman to curse. She didn't drink. She wore pantyhose and slip all the time.
What was
a lady.
Denomination?
Well, she was born in the 20s. So
this is her denomination.
Oh, denomination, Baptist. So she said to me, and we were talking about sex, and at the time I was a good Christian girl. Not because anybody was telling me to, other than I guess God in my head. And so I was saving myself for my Christ bed. And so, and I was talking to my grandmother about this, right? Assuming she'd be proud, assuming she'd feel like, well, I raised this good Christian granddaughter who's going to fulfill all of my purity wishes. You know what my grandmother looked at me and said? She said, hey, I think that's beautiful, Candace. And I think you should wait as long as you think it's necessary. But don't marry no man that you haven't had sex with. A lifetime is a long time to be dry.
Grandma has oil. Somebody told me you never buy a car that you haven't test driven.
You don't do it. You just don't do it.
That depreciates the minute you take it off the grounds.
But I also think because we don't talk about, and I said this recently, somebody said, do you pray to God about what you sexually want? And they were like, what? And I was like, it doesn't make sense. If you could pray to God about what you emotionally, physically, mentally, financially want, why can't you pray to God about what you want sexually?
Now that's a word to me, and I'm not kidding.
Lord, I want to be with somebody who sees me in the bed and not as a replacement for their hand. I want to be with somebody who can make eye contact with me during sex. I want to be with somebody who understands my pleasure and who I love to pleasure. Like, I think sometimes we think that God is segmented and we can't pray about what we sexually want, but God is not. If God is the God of all things, then God is the God of my vagina and making sure the vagina is happy.
Thank you for reminding me of that.
Number 27. Let me tell you something. I think it was Unfit Christian posted the other day because May is National Masturbation Month. And she posted, I think it was her, is God God is, somebody said something along the lines of you're masturbating and God is watching. And so she said, well, put on a full show. When I tell you, I felt the Holy Ghost in the room, put on a whole show. Like, don't be timid with it.
Because that's to me, and I'm somebody, I believe in sex toys, but I also believe that you can't be careful of desensitizing your clitoris with a sex toy. And you know, if you've been desensitized, if somebody is down there and they doing all the vibrating can and nothing's happening.
What are they doing?
But I'm saying that to say is, I believe masturbation, like the text says, don't spill your seed on the ground. I'm like, well, I ain't got no seed to spill, so he ain't talking about me in the Bible.
My seed spills once a month, and I didn't ask for it.
What? So how about that? Here. But I believe the best way you know how your body responds to different touch is to masturbate with your hands and to figure out, because if you don't know what makes you pleasure, how are you supposed to tell another person? Okay, this is what I like, this is what I don't like. Otherwise, you're just gonna be sitting there like, see, I hate to say, sometimes Mr. feel like he going to the bathroom on me.
Oh,
you know what? My favorite class at Spelman, a professor said, I don't know, it was an English class, seminal African American literature. I don't know how we got on this, but we spent a day talking about sex and women, and she said, it's in my sacred text. She said, don't ever be anyone's toilet stool. And it was in that moment, it all clicked for 19-year-old me. And it's like, I am here to be more than a substitute for your hand. I am here more to be a depository for your seed. Like, I am here for pleasure as well.
Yeah, I'm laying in this bed with you.
We're not taught to exclaim that we desire pleasure.
Nope.
We are here to take your cum, make that have your babies, and then the output that we're in a healthy sexual relationship.
Yep.
I won't.
Here's the other thing about soul ties. If you're teaching me that I'm only supposed to have sex with this one person, what happens when I have sex with the wrong person? What happens when that one person becomes abusive and starts to bring harm to me? What are you saying to people?
Kia, that's your fault. And that's what that teaches.
Your discernment was off. That was on you.
That's right. And now look at that. Now you right back in the church trying to get the pastor. You right. It's a cycle. It's this cycle. You can't get right. You can't do it right. So you got to show up here every Sunday so we can teach you how to be more right.
Because when you show up every Sunday, then you're contributing to the offering.
Yes.
And again, when I say this is a whole system that benefits the church.
Yeah.
Because
it's all about control.
What you're doing is wrong. You're going to feel badly. You're going to want to repent. You're going to be at the altar snobbing and snotting all over the place and feeling convicted. So you're going to give your rent money that you shouldn't be giving because you feel like giving this rent money is going to free you. Like, it is a fucked up system.
It is. It is. I mean, listen, Walmart didn't invent marketing. The church did.
The church is the biggest business.
And I think it's a fear that it's a thing of control, because for a lot of Black male, the only spaces they have for control is in the church. And as long as we can say we control the bodies, they feel like, well, I don't have control over anything else. And I think it's a fear of, okay, if we tell women and men that, especially women, that they are control over their bodies, what can we teach? What do we have control over? Not knowing that if you give women the freedom to say, I love in my body, you might actually have more people sitting in church. If you gave people the freedom to bring their whole bodies and their whole selves to church, you would have more seats.
That's right.
Let's get on this because Natasha said, God is the God of my vagina.
Amen.
It's not popping. Why are we taught to not love our bodies, not embrace our bodies? Like, what is going on with that?
I had to get good and grown.
Wait a minute. This is the Holy Ghost. Y'all saw me just open this book, right? I'm about to read what is highlighted right here. This ain't nothing but God.
Let's put Whitney on the big screen for her God message.
This is actually, wow, this is really crazy. This is my advisor's chapter in this book, which I didn't intentionally turn to. But the title of this chapter is The Spirit is Willing and the Flesh is Too. living whole and holy lives through interrogating spirituality and sexuality. This is the part that I turn to, though. Our preference for disembodiment always perceives our bodies to be unhealthy and flawed. Due to our understanding of the body as disease, our dualistic impulse for dissection assumes that there's a dysfunctional component to our being that must be extracted and discarded.
Natasha. Natasha points out true fornication is objectification. Folks can fornicate in marriage while people are out here trying to regulate singles. So, and I think that is the nuance that we don't discuss in our sexual ethics that causes us to have bad relationships with people and sex.
That's right.
Because
That's right.
We never talk about, we think marriage is the end all and be all in a safe space about sex, but we never talk about how to treat ourselves or how to treat others in these relationships.
Yeah, and we remain morally bankrupt because of it. And not the kind of morally bankrupt that they preach about in church, but the kind of morally bankrupt that allows R. Kelly to exist and still be praised in some parts of Black culture under some sort of guise of, salvation, right? Well, we can save him
without him doing any work. Like it takes no repentance from him.
He has to do nothing but exist as a man.
Jocelyn, what's this book you're talking about? Loving the Body, Black Religious Studies and Erotic.
Yeah, I have to put the title of the book she was reading. Just in case you were curious.
I was about to ask Whitney that question, so thank you.
It's an anthology, so it has several different contributors to it, but it's literally about Blackness and body, Black religious studies and the erotic. So you have the ancestor good Katie G. Cannon, Tracy West, Michael J. Brown, Lee Butler, Horace Griffin, Anthony Penn, Dwight Hopkins, Cheryl Kirk Dugan, like Victor Anderson. This is a book that, let me see what else I got highlighted in here. Oh, yes. Consequently, our Black bodies are frequently seen and experienced as the unholy, unclean incarnation of evil in America. African Americans, therefore, have sought to sacrificially escape our bodies through an over-spiritualization of our lives.
Over-spiritualization. So someone asked me what soul ties meant, and that is what I said. It is an over-spiritualization of unhealthy attachment. And when we attach soul ties or our unhealthy attachment to us disobeying God, we never get to the root of the real unhealthy attachment. Because you're talking to someone who's had soul ties, unhealthy attachment with someone who they've never had sex with.
Come on now. Come on now.
Situation, you realize it's not about God said don't have sex and I had sex. It's about something else. And until we get to the root of what's causing our unhealthy attachment.
Yep.
And we can also talk about how the church reinforces unhealthy attachment by saying that marriage and partnership is the end all and be all for all of us.
Yeah.
So now when we're dating, we're not dating to get to know. We're dating because you are the one God sent me and God told me. And you are unhealthily holding on to something that ain't for you.
Well, Kia, he wants me to prosper. Don't.
Y'all all
prosper.
You know what? For me,
but y'all all grew up in churches where you knew they ain't happy together. But
of course, yeah.
Where both of them got side pieces.
Yeah.
My favorite thing to watch in seminary is that third year and watching all the single dudes who've been single and hoes all seminary all of a sudden pop out with a first lady within a month of graduation. Like, where did this guy come from?
Especially the ones that you know don't even like women.
I ain't got no wine either.
I'm all out.
I'm out of liquor, and this is a bad time to be out of liquor.
I am more marketable as a male preacher with a wife on my arm. It's a marketing.
Listen, this is a safe.
Considered.
That's how Michael Todd continues to prosper. That's how Heather Lindsay continues to prosper. That's how Cornelius Lindsay continues to prosper, because now you're operating out of belief of insufficiency. That how I am is not enough.
That's right.
So I have to have a partner in order to get the fullness of what God has for me. That is bullshit.
I'd rather have a single pastor that's a hoe than a married pastor that's a hoe.
Okay, so can we talk about this?
At least the single one is honest.
At least.
So let's talk about how I'll just tell the story. Within recent years, I dated 2 different pastors.
Oh, why would you do that?
Because that dick was good.
Trust me, they did not come to me as pastors. That's not how their introduction to me was. Okay. I didn't seek out pastors. Trust me,
as a minister, we know how to fuck. I ain't trying.
Let me tell you something. Pastor was not on my bingo card for sex. It was not on my bingo card. And so
we know people who it is on their bingo card, so we had to ask.
It was not on my bingo card.
Look at Allison.
Out here sleeping to be the first lady, honey.
And so I thought about, like, with both of them, and in different situations, like with months outside of each other, I realized that I did this thing to both of them, where when they introduced sexual stuff into the relationship, I was the one that got weirded out, because I'm out here living my best life, but also I'm not a pastor, so I can live my best life. You can have sex. Like, are you like? I feel bad. I feel like I'm leading you astray. I was saying that. That was me saying that. And like, I think about it now, and I was like, what the fuck is wrong with me? Like, but that's that old training. Like, what a pastor is supposed to be.
You have to be.
Candace, I have a question.
Turning off those old tapes, because you think they have been silenced, but it's the moment when you think you.
Oh yeah.
That they be like, press play, and you be sitting there like, I ain't thought about this in a decade. Why am I even struggling with this?
Yeah.
Because those things are embedded in us.
I have a question for you. Sure. What was their public theology around sex? Because a lot of times, a pastor's public theology does not align with what they practice privately. So usually they're either silent or hypocritical in what they're saying, and you don't get an honest sex ethics from the pulpit.
Sure. I don't feel like I know either one of their preaching enough to say without a doubt what it is. I would say, knowing both of them as intellectuals, I would assume one thing, and I would assume that these are the same things that they are preaching. Also, I understand how the church works, so I could also assume that they are not. But I will say this: it reminds me of something. What happened to me reminds me of something that happens in the movie, right? And so like, people can leave the church and realize the church caused them harm, and like be like really open about it. Like, the church totally fucked me up, right? Mm-hmm. But like, you're watching them and you realize they don't even realize how deeply they're fucked up. That's the same thing the women in this movie were going through with men. Like, they were all able to admit to some degree that men had jacked their lives up to some degree. None of them had a full understanding of how messed up like their mentality was around men. That's the same thing Christians do all the time with the church. And that's what I did. Like, in that moment, I put my shit on them. And they were both like, hey, nope.
Candace, to speak to that. So listen, this little chapter is full of nuggets. It starts off with this. When most Christians are asked to think about body issues, notions of purity are frequently central to those considerations. The ideology that resounds throughout the Christian community is that the body is a temple and we must always put forth great effort to keep the temple pure. These ideas are quite pervasive because of a deep sense that the body and bodily activities are sinful, corrupted, and impure.
Yeah. And I'm like, I don't want to lead you. I don't want to lead you astray from your ministry.
You don't want to be a hindrance.
Because I will.
You don't want to be a hindrance.
I don't want to be a hindrance.
But
I'm nobody's hindrance. I'm everybody's blessing, motherfucker.
All right, we've been on here for over 2 hours. Let's close this out. Candace, I'm sorry. I had my kid bring me pie, so now I'm smacking.
Wow, so you got pie, and none of us.
Because I am hungry.
I'm hungry.
Candace, is there anything that you wished I had asked that I did not ask?
Candace, where'd you meet those pastors? No, one of them is a great story. It really is. It's a great story.
We have to do an after dark story time with Candace and the pastors. Good stuff.
The title of my other book, Candace and the Pastors. Yeah. No.
I can write that book too.
No, there's nothing that you didn't ask me. I didn't say what I did for a living. This is a hard. I don't know what I do for a living.
Demon Time OnlyFans account, Candace?
No, never, Kia. I'm a good girl. No.
If it's under $10.
Listen, if
I'm trying to figure out my own content for OnlyFans, no shade. Like
I've already thought about mine. I'm sure there are a lot of people who would pay for a naked preacher.
Honestly, I would.
I just want to
demonstrated in my recent behavior.
I have great boobs and their peers, and I just be like, I feel like I can make it work.
I just want to dance and get dressed, like my regular get dressed to go out activity. That is my OnlyFans content. Like turn on the music and I'm getting dressed.
Okay. I strangely don't want an OnlyFans, but guys, I do run a journalism organization, and you can become a subscriber. So see, same thing. It's just really OnlyFans for information.
Okay.
So
Jocelyn, anything that I did not ask that you wished I would have?
For us to have talked about Tariq a little more, about
no.
Okay,
So now we got another hour to go because can we come back this Friday?
Okay, so I watching Wedding to Exhale this year because it's my first time watching it in full length. I watched it 2 months ago, and when Gloria goes outside and like confronts him, and she's like, I would send you to go stay with your dad if he wasn't gay, and he's like, you telling me my dad is a queer?
My dad is a fucking queer. My dad is a fucking queer.
And he goes off. Like one thing that I took from the movie, and I tweeted last night, was like, why did Gloria and why do we as cisgendered heterosexual Black women take men being gay as like an insult?
Mm-hmm. It's a weird thing.
Mm-hmm.
Very, very weird. I saw it all the time in Atlanta at Spelman, across the street from Morehouse. Like, what is it? I don't, child. I was with my best friends last night, and we were talking about it too. Like, he was like, it's reducing me to me not having any worth unless I'm attached
to a man,
to a woman. Like, what?
Yep.
What a waste.
Yeah. Can we come back to part 2?
And I think a lot of that is because going back to what Mike Todd and all them do is we're taught raise women to be wise. So if a man is gay, all right, we've already lost one husband out the game. I'm like, girl, it ain't about that. Lost. Like,
you be told a gay nigga, like, let's go back to Insecure from last night. When Molly said, oh, I brought something, and Andrew was like, well, I brought something too. And the brought somethings were two, like, completely different levels of brought something.
Yeah.
Andrew, that was right up my alley. I was like, okay. Molly, girl, I don't wear no clothes in my house. So this little lingerie situation and feather, like, that is so G-rated.
Vanilla.
Like, if we've been, like, let's go there. Let's go there. I really think we should come back and do a part 2 on Friday.
Are y'all game? Because I do have questions about whether or not
we could.
Wait, I have two questions, and y'all tell me if we can answer them tonight or if we need to come back. The first question is, was Waiting to Exhale fat phobic and homophobic? Second question is, the second question is around whether or not these women were hyper focused and trained to desire relationships, or were these people just looking for love and safe spaces and unable to find them?
I think we need to come back so that we can give very in-depth responses, because what I would say is something I could wrap up in a minute, and I don't think that's giving it justice. One, because I'm hungry, and I will just be like,
and you do keep eating this pie.
Girl, it's some pasta downstairs waiting on me, and I smell it. And I would prefer to give like a very robust response to it, and just to answer it within like 5 minutes, I don't think it would do just. That's just my personal opinion.
I'm happy to come back.
Yeah.
I have nothing to do. I have no social life.
We on our Andy tip with Bravo. Like, we gonna give y'all part 1 and then come back with part 2.
Yeah, that's right.
And I'm gonna give you a different eyeshadow look.
Yeah, as long as I'm in quarantine, I'm available.
Allison and Whitney, is there anything that I did not ask that you wish I would have asked that we would discuss Friday?
Friday, I do want, now that Jocelyn has brought it up, I do want to explore, because I live an open life as a queer person, I definitely think we should explore some conversation around queerness in the film.
Amen.
And some of the comments that are throughout. But I don't think that they're, so I'm just going to wait till Friday.
Okay. Allison, anything else?
I want to discuss, because it's been sitting, it didn't dawn on me till yesterday. I think I tweeted about it, but I really want to discuss Black women in fellatio and how we were raised, especially those of us who grew up in mixed communities, we were raised that fellatio is something that only white girls do, and Black girls don't do that. That's dirty or nasty. And there's still Black women I know to this day. I mean, because I used to give classes on how to give fellatio, but there are Black women I know to this day who won't do it. They won't touch it. So I really want to go into more of that on Friday. But other than that,
let's talk about giving head, because honestly, truly, I get off, and I don't care if it's a nigga or a bitch. I enjoy. I'm just speaking my truth. I've had a lot of wine on
you. You just ran all the soul tie people off of the
no, to the left.
If I can get off by making you get off, baby, I feel the Holy Ghost in the room.
All right, so we will be back Friday. Do you guys want to do 8 o'clock on Friday?
That works for me. I have to host a Black Club meeting the next morning, so
we will be back 8 o'clock on Friday, and we will be discussing fat phobia, homophobia in Waiting to Exhale. We will be discussing
fellatiophobia.
Fellatiophobia.
We will be discussing fellatio in the movie. I also want to talk about their relationship with white girls, because there was a lot of that.
There was a lot of that.
Honey, Terry was mad.
And we are also going to talk about, are these women who are looking for love, or are these women chasing an idea that they have been socialized to believe?
Well, their mothers would have been women of the greatest generation, so we can talk about that on Friday and how that feeds into who these women are at their core. You were raised by
real heavy right now.
I love a generational study.
Let's come back on Friday.
Natasha says, you are fabulous. I love the Real Drunk Show. Thank you for this time. And
Natasha had some fabulous commentary.
She did.
Come back on Friday. We're coming back. We're going to have our drinks ready. I ain't going to be on no wine. I'm going to be on my tequila on Friday. So y'all going to get your
Yes. Actually, we are back with an Agenda Friday. We will see you then. Thanks for joining us. You guys have a great evening.
Bye.
Bye.